Story 1. My sister-in-law, 29F, is trying to turn my husband, 29M, against me, 28F. My so and I recently eloped. We decided a big wedding like we had been planning was not for us, and my family was fine off the bat. I have a great relationship with them and they understood where I was coming from. Complete acceptance. My SO's family was less accepting, especially his mother and twin sister. For years, it was just the three of them before his mother remarried and had a few more children. But because of this, his sister and mother are still very dependent on him. They were hurt because they were looking forward to everything that comes with the wedding. The weekend away, pretty dresses, us paying for them to stay in a nice hotel, fancy food, free drinks. Not necessarily because we were getting married. Hopefully, that gives everyone a small idea of how selfish and entitled they are. This all occurred in the beginning of July. We decided that after our quick elopement, we would extend our already planned European vacation from 1 week to 2 weeks, from July 25th until August 9th. Initially, we were going to board our pug and have a neighbor keep an eye on our condo, but being gone that long, we thought the best idea would be to have someone stay there. Enter SIL. So suggested that she house sit for us. She would be cheaper than any other option, we could trust her, and she loves our dog. Seemed to be the perfect solution. Shortly before our trip, so informed me that SIL was thinking of moving to our city from hers, Springfield to Chicago, and would be looking for a job while staying in our place, hoping to interview while she was up here. Not a problem. She has been really inconsistent with work and maybe a change of scenery from living with her mom is what she needs. It was never discussed that she would be staying longer than the 2 weeks or would need to. The day that we leave, she shows up on the Amtrak with 3 large suitcases. Now, I was already frazzled, so I didn't think anything more than wow, and I thought I was an overpacker. But in hindsight, that should have been my first red flag. But we leave and have a fantastic vacation. We check in a few times and everything is just great at home. We get home and everything is clean, well taken care of, and my pug is still a fat, lazy lump of fur. But I love him. So, she did a great job and is deserving of the money. We got home late on the 9th, so didn't see her until the 10th. I had the day off, but she never asked for a ride to Union Station or any indication that she was returning home. Figured that she must have arranged it with so. I go to bed early without asking so what is going on. Go to work as normal on Tuesday, assuming she has left, and come home on Tuesday to her sitting on my couch, eating something and watching TV. What? Call so. He says that she needs to stay for a few weeks. She told him that she has a job lead and that she has another interview next week. If she doesn't get the job, then she will go back to Springfield but would like to continue the job search from our place. I am not happy that he gave her permission to live here without speaking to me, but he is blind when it comes to his sister and mother, so this is something we need to continue to work on. I agree to a week extra, as long as she focuses on job search. Fast forward to last weekend, August 15th. SAL has completely taken over my condo. In this short time, she monopolizes my living room, eats all of our food, then complains when there is no food left, tells me that she doesn't want any guests using her bathroom, aka the guest bathroom. When they are over, has brought over some guy to have sex with and has very loud sex with him while So and I are trying to have dinner, and just makes catty comments in general towards my husband about how I seem to run the household and tell stories about how he was always an a-hole growing. I decide I can't put up with it for any longer and talk to So about it. He agrees, but acknowledges that with his mother/sister, he has no backbone and he knows that he will cave. So I talk to her. I tell her that while she is a part of our family, we feel that she has taken advantage of us at this point, and I need to know what her plans to leave are because this is no longer working for me and So. She tells me that So told her that she could stay as long as she needs and that she wasn't planning on going back to Springfield at this point as her relationship with her mother is codependent and dangerous. She then insinuates that if I send her back, that So will turn against me. I tell her that she has a week. I know So and her threats will not work, and I can promise her that she does not want to make him pick between us because he will see what she is really trying to do. So that didn't go well at all. Things quieted down and she had her interview on Monday. She has been ignoring me for the past few days, but So says that it went well and she is anticipating getting the job. He said that she spoke of staying with us, but he held strong, saying that unless there was something crazy that happened, she would have to go. If she had to start the job ASAP, then we could possibly help her with finding a place. We buy her an Amtrak ticket for Saturday morning. Well, wouldn't you guess it? Something crazy happens on Friday just before she has to leave. I get a text from So, "We need to talk when you get home. I am worried you relapsed." Some context. I am in recovery for kleptomania since I was a child. I stole just to steal, not because I needed something or had no money, but just because. I have not stolen since before So and I started dating, about 3 years, and have done extensive therapy throughout the years to deal with this. I've been very open about this with everyone, including MIL and SIL. MIL called So on Friday morning, telling him that SIL called her in tears on Thursday night. She noticed that some of her clothes had gone missing and that one of her rings was gone as well. She took it upon herself to search my room, finding the ring on my dresser and searching through my closet where she found the clothing. She told him that they understand that my job is stressful and that having SIL staying with us added some stress. So they weren't upset and wouldn't take any further action, but that they were truly concerned. SIL found several pieces of clothing that had tags on it still, buried in my closet by her clothes. They believe that I have started shoplifting again in addition to stealing from SIL. I did not relapse. I did not buy those clothes, and I believe that either they were clothes she purchased and it was just the perfect circumstance, or that she purchased them to set me up. I come home to an intervention of sorts. SIL and So sitting in my living room with her clothes, ring, and the stolen clothes all laid out. She has him completely believing this. My So looks distraught. He wants to help me and fully believes that I have relapsed. SIL volunteers to stay with us. She is a CADC and feels that some of her skills could be there to help me. So is heartbroken. He feels that he caused this by bringing stress into my life, taking all of the blame off SIL. I am at a loss. The past 36 hours have been a nightmare. Whenever she is alone with So, she keeps planting seeds of doubt about my recovery, hinting that I seem to be wearing clothes that are above my pay grade. But I don't have any debt, so where's this all coming from? And when we talk, I can see the wheels of doubt turning in his head. Is she stealing again? Is my sister right? I have tried to explain this to So and it seems that now he believes me, but he cannot imagine that his sister would try to frame me like this. He knows his mother and sister have issues, but to him they would never try to hurt him, especially by attacking me. To me, it is obvious that SIL and MIL have always been able to manipulate So to do whatever they wanted, and had I not been in the picture, SIL would have moved in without issue. Since I wasn't going along with her plan, she had to do something to disrupt it. I don't know how to handle this with her or with my MIL. I know that So and I can recover from this, but I am worried that it will be at the cost of his relationship with his sister and mother. Edit. Sorry, my questions/asking for advice were not clear. How do I broach this with my husband in the long run? Based on their past behavior, especially the sister, I am nervous this is going to become a long-term problem between us. So how do I communicate to him? You pick me or I walk. And how do I mitigate this now, getting her out? Do I bother trying to clear my name with the stealing? I don't want to get overly defensive. Update 1. My sister-in-law, 29F, is trying to turn my husband, 29M, against me, 28F. Thanks to all who provided advice and answers to my questions. After reading everything, I gave So an ultimatum. Either SIL left that night or I did and would leave him. I am not going to be put after his manipulative sister and mother in the pecking order. So it was her or me at this point. He agreed she would go, but we both knew it would not be pretty. We decided to offer to pay for a hotel and Amtrak ticket, hoping this could be a bargaining tool to get her to agree. I show So the previous thread, and he initially said nothing but went directly to our guest room and packed everything of hers up quickly. He then apologized for everything. I told him that we both know this is more than his sister trying to claim residency in our condo, and we have to resolve this or it will lead at our marriage. He agreed to go to therapy with me and, if need be, go to therapy on his own. He doesn't want to let this destroy our marriage. We had a really frank discussion about my recovery. I explained to him that if I was stealing again, it would be obvious, as we would have random things around the house that we didn't have before. I wouldn't have been able to restrain myself to a few shirts if I relapsed. He was really supportive and apologetic. He trusted his sister due to her experience with addictions but seemed to understand that this was just manipulation on her part. She ended up showing up later Sunday, letting herself into the condo like it was just a normal day. Took her all of a minute to see her bags. So pushed her bags out in the hall, and when she tried to get them, he shut them both out there. I left them alone because he needed to do this on his own without me. I heard her crying, and I know he offered to take her to a hotel and pay for her train. She told him to EFF off. After a little bit, she started throwing a fit in the hall and was sobbing loud enough that the whole floor could probably hear. I could make her out saying that he was abandoning her in her time of need and that, "I had to stop controlling you. I'm your family." It took every ounce of restraint for me to not go and slap her, but so reminded me that she is trying to agitate me. Eventually, my neighbor couldn't take any more and texted me that he called the good old Chicago PD to get her to shut up. Cops came a little later. They spoke to her first because she was currently camped out in the hall. She told them that she wanted me arrested for kicking her out of her home. I had a feeling she would pull this, and for stealing from her. She told them I was trying to steal her purse. It was in the hall where she dropped it prior to so pushing her out, a ring, and a few outfits. Plus, I was stealing from stores. I told the nice officer about the whole incident, including her allegations. So backed me up that she was setting me up and this was all really family issues, not legal at this point. They told her not only had she attempted to file a false police report, but she was disturbing the peace for no reason. She told them she had nowhere to go, but after telling the police she lived in Springfield and had come up here to house sit, they noted her residency claim. Cops told us that because she claimed to have no money, had no car, and her residence is so far away, that we had two options because we can't just kick her out with nowhere to go. Either we let her stay until she can arrange for a ride home, aka we get her a train ticket tomorrow, or we take her home right then and there. But there is only one way that they can guarantee she will be gone tomorrow morning. So and I talked about it. We were concerned letting her stay an additional night would just make this worse and we would be right back where we started. We opted to drive her home. She agreed to this without much issue. I think the cops made her realize that her little plot was over. The beginning of the drive was pretty awful. She cried for the first hour, laid the guilt on thick. He caused her so much stress. He doesn't care about her. Can't you see what I'm trying to do? She's only looking out for him. They are twins. Their bond is stronger than ours. And I don't want kids, so how could he want to stay with me? I'll admit that I fed into her a bit with some name-calling. Delusional, stupid, insane. But I had reached my breaking point. Not my proudest moment. After a while, So and I put on an audiobook and just ignored her, which worked. She slept the rest of the time while So and I were both just wired with anxiety. By the time we get to MIL's house, it is around 2 a.m. and we drop her off without incident. MIL calls us as we are about 15 minutes away. Tells So that I am a cancer on their family, and told him that he had to stand up to me and choose his family for once. Wholly delusional. He told his mother that he picked me and he is sorry she feels that it has to be one or the other, but she made that choice, not him. The drive home, So poured everything out. Apparently, his childhood abuse goes so much further than he has shared before. Sal would regularly physically and mentally torment him, but when he would tell his mother, she would blame him. He agreed that he thought the distance was enough to deal with everything, but he needs more than that. He also needs to come to terms that his relationship with his mother, sister, half-siblings, and stepfather may be over. He was scared to admit how bad it was, and I hate that it took his sister behaving like this for it to come out. It's absolutely heartbreaking. We took the day off, slept a lot, watched some Rick and Morty, went to a fairly productive therapy session, and are eating some awesome pizza. It's hard to sit back and realize that what was my relationship kind of crumbled this weekend, but I have faith that we can each work on our relationship and ourselves. When we turned SO's phone back on, there were several voicemails and numerous text messages from both SIL and MIL apologizing for everything. So and I have talked about him going completely zero contact with both SIL and MIL. I think changing our phone numbers is a good place to start, but he is apprehensive. He is worried about emergencies, but I don't want to give him any further opportunity to sabotage our relationship. This is absolutely the right move, correct? I am thinking of finding him a specialty therapist to assist with this, but I don't know where to start or what questions I should be asking with such family issues. Where should we start with this? Update 2. My sister-in-law, 29F, is trying to turn my husband, 29M, against me, 28F. Hello there, everyone. A bit of an update. It has been 2 weeks since we removed SIL from our residence. And it was a doozy, have they been? I could actually use some advice going forward since everyone was so great before. We had a few peaceful days since returning home. Got back into our routines, went to therapy, and got my so set up with an individual therapist on his own. We didn't end up changing either of our numbers for other reasons but agreed that if they couldn't respect our wishes, then we would just have to block their numbers entirely. It wasn't an issue until this past weekend. On Friday, SO's younger brother, Abil, who is 16 and living at home, called him. He wanted to give him a heads up that MAL and SAL were coming up here to visit some family member. They decided to bring him so he could see so. Even he knew that this didn't smell right, so freaked out. He realized that they were going to manipulate him into seeing them by using his Abil as bait. He was right. I was out of town by this point already for a bachelorette party, leaving my so alone and not at all prepared to deal with his family, and me not being able to get home until Sunday. YB calls on Saturday to let So know that he would like to see him. They have some time before they head home and are in our neighborhood, for some reason. So and YB get to hang out for a few hours in our home. They play some video games, eat some takeout, and just have a nice afternoon of brother bonding. YB tells So that he doesn't believe what my MIL and SIL have been saying, but that they have done nothing but bash me on their social media pages. He pulled their pages up on his phone and was able to give a screenshot of them to So. One of them said, "Well, that a-hole which managed to brainwash my son again. Please pray that Jesus will deliver him from the devil that he lays with. She is nothing short of a cancer on my life and I worry that this will drive me to illness. Pray for us all. I just can't even with this. She's not even religious." But anyway, So kept it together for the rest of their visit. At the end, both MIL and SIL attempted to come up to the condo, but he was able to keep them downstairs, only speaking to them outside. SIL then dropped a bomb on So. She's been severely depressed and needed him. She miscarried recently and it has been awful on her. She just needed her twin to comfort her. He feels immensely guilty. Neither of us had an idea that this happened. I get home early yesterday and I can read the conflict on his face, and we fought about it. My frustration with MAL and SIL is at its peak, especially after seeing the barrage of Facebook posts. He agrees that those are over the line but that most are for MIL, true. But SIL had 2 that were passive-aggressive and clearly aimed towards me, so it wouldn't be fair to hold SIL accountable for those. I disagree. She made these choices that got us to this place. She literally started this entire thing. And now she has to deal with the consequences, regardless of whatever trauma she may have endured that spurred this on. And honestly, I don't necessarily believe that she really had a miscarriage. Our fight consisted of name-calling, him calling me insensitive and cold, me calling him naive and manipulated, and bickering, which was a lot considering we normally only fight over whose house is better from Game of Thrones. We spoke after our fight yesterday and were able to move on from it. But then today we both could feel tension and it was only amplified when he told me he was texting SIL to check on her. I feel like we have regressed and now I am back behind SIL in the pecking order. When I feel that I should be first. I deserve to be first, right? So / our relationships. How do I handle this? Is it best just to jump into couples therapy? This is something we both think is a good place to go, but not necessarily right now. Do I suggest we go no contact until we get a clearer idea? I don't want to feel guilty if his sister really went through this and I take away her support, but at the same point, I need to put my marriage first. Part of me wants to just confront my SIL and tape the conversation because I know her and know she won't be able to not gloat to me. My marriage is my #1 priority at the end of the day. How do I convey that I need it to be his too, without coming off as selfish? This is where the op started. Rant posting on everything from cake to dresses. So I skipped all the parts and I'm showing only the last 2 posts that the op made. Date 3. Hey there. Helen is dead. No, that title isn't a joke. It's not a poor attempt at humor. Helen is dead. She died on Saturday, alone from what we can tell. We won't know for some time due to toxicology. But it appears as though she mixed the wrong medication with the wrong amount of franja and passed in her sleep. It's been weird. Daich is sad, very sad, which is to be expected. But so is handling it well. Sael is handling planning all the arrangements. We are debating if we will attend. Part of me is against it. There are all the stories I have shared with my people here, and even some that I have not shared, about how she has just been this persistent infection on my life. Why honor her at all? But then part of me looks at my Daich, my in-laws, and my family of eels, and I see some of their pain that even though she really was disliking Helen throughout their entire lives, she still had some rare moments of being mom. Personally, I feel angry, I guess, that she got to go peacefully in her sleep. Sure, her life was a hot mess, but she deserved that after everything she has put everyone through. I didn't want the universe to be done serving her that karma pie that she so rightfully deserved. I'll have to figure that out, but I guess my username rings true a bit today. Ding dong. The Wicked Witch, Helen, is dead. I hope the afterlife is like the good place except extremely hot, so she is constantly sweaty and gross. Sorry, I'm petty. Update 4. Goodbye, Helen. Thank you to all for your words of support. Honestly, this has been a very emotional several days. We have decided to attend the services this week. We flew back to DH's hometown yesterday. I'm taking a short break for myself to process. Process what? Ding dong, Helen wrote death letters for all of us. They were in her safe. Sael handed them out last night. I've decided to post mine and write a short response to her. Dear Ding Dong, if you are reading this, I have died. I hope that by this time we have reconciled and we have both seen the errors of our ways. I never gave you a full shot. I've been going to therapy frequently and I've come to see how much damage I have caused to my relationship with my son by isolating you. You are not a bad person and you seem to be a good partner to my son. I don't always agree with your choices of dress, lifestyle, and personality, but that is why God makes us all unique. We have both made mistakes in our relationship, and for any pain I may have caused you by trying to be a good mother to my son, I am sorry. I should have seen you just wanted to make him happy. I hope that this is not the last letter I write to you. I plan to write new ones every 2 years to update them. I hope I can look fondly back on this in 2 years and laugh at how silly we were. You and I should be friends. We are both beautiful and good mothers. I am sorry we have been at odds because you did not see eye to eye with me. Take care of my son and babies. I'll be watching over you. Love, Helen. Dear Helen, I am sorry that we could not have a better relationship for DH and our children. I look at the relationship DH has with my mother, even now in our time of grief, and wish that I could have had that. Someone who could have been my ally, friend, and a second mother. I can honestly say that I tried for years. I did my best to show you that I wanted to make it work with you, that I wanted to be there for you and have you be there for me. But every step of the way you fought it. You punished me for existing. You hatched plots against me. You embarrassed me on many occasions and you manipulated me until the very end. I can say that I had genuine fear for what you might do to me on a regular basis. No person should live like that. I do not accept your apology. Your passing does not mean you deserve it. You were evil, cruel, and disrespectful to me on a consistent basis. I will not miss you. I will not share stories of you with my children. You do not deserve that. Most of all, I will help DH recover. He deserves healing and peace after a lifetime of hell. Go to hell, Helen. With no love. Ding dong. I cried writing that. Feels so good. I love all of you. Seriously, the almost 3 years I've been here has been so helpful. I'm going to therapy, I'm going to get through this, and I hope to be a wise commenter like so many of you. One final one. I know you hate heat, Helen, so I hope hell is just as hot Chicago was this weekend. Rot in hell. Now on to the next story. Story 2. Daughter humiliated my wife at our anniversary party by mentioning her infertility and refusing to apologize. So I cut her off. But she came back crying after saying her aunt used her. Hi, so I, 40M, have a daughter, Jade, 17F, and I have had a somewhat strained relationship with her in the past few years. Jade's mom, my ex-wife, passed away 9 years ago. We had been high school sweethearts and had married right out of college. But after that, things got rough between us, and we had already been divorced for 2 years when she passed away from a seizure in her sleep. At the time, she had been splitting her time and living with both of us for half the month, and unfortunately, when she passed away, Jade had been staying with her. I think something just snapped inside my daughter the day that it happened. Since then, she has never been the same, and she has even been diagnosed with clinical depression because she went into shock the day that her mother died. She and her mom had always been very close, so I was not surprised that it happened, but it pained me to see her like this. She used to be a cheerful and fun-loving kid, but after her mom passed away, she shut everybody out and got really irritable if anybody tried to talk to her. And sometimes I would even see her talking to herself and stuff like that. So I had to take her to a psychiatrist, and they told us that she had depression and had developed severe anxiety, which was why she was not even able to sleep at night. So they prescribed her a bunch of meds, and I made her have her medicines religiously no matter how much she protested and insisted that she did not need any of this and that she was just fine. I was grieving the loss of my ex-wife, and I did not want anything bad to happen to my daughter. So for the next couple of years, I was completely devoted to taking care of her and making sure that she was fine. And within a few years, she got better and was back to normal again. I was so happy for her, and I thought that maybe I could finally go back to living life because by then I had made my peace with my ex-wife passing away as well. I did not exactly start actively dating, but one of my friends told me about his cousin who had called me after she had seen me at his wedding back then, and he gave her my number after I said that I was fine with it and started talking. And that woman is now my wife, Carol, 36F. Initially, we would only speak to each other by text and occasionally flirt with each other. I had been very upfront about what had happened in my life and how my priority was always going to be my daughter, and she seemed to be fine with it. After 3 months of just texting each other, we finally decided to meet, and we went out on several dates afterward. Finally, after almost 6 months of dating, I brought her home to introduce her to Jade, and I thought that she would be fine with it since she was doing much better. But unfortunately, Jade was very unhappy about this new relationship. She immediately made it very obvious that she was not happy since as soon as I introduced her to Carol and told her that this was somebody that I had been seeing. She made a face and told me that her mother was barely cold in her grave and I had already started seeing other people. That was the first comment that she had made, and when I told her that it was not appropriate to say that when somebody was visiting us for the first time, she told me that she didn't care and went back to her room. Needless to say, the first meeting did not go pretty well, and after Carol left, I had to seriously reprimand Jade. But even then, she told me that she did not like Carol and she did not approve of our relationship, so she was going to continue behaving this way and was going to make sure that she did not last with me. We got into a fight that day, but eventually, I had to make up with her because she's my daughter. Luckily, Carol was very understanding about all of this and told me that she could understand that Jade was going through a tough stage, and she didn't take that kind of behavior to heart, but she would keep her distance from Jade from this point on, and I respected that. That was a really long time ago, and since then, Carol and I have been together. After dating for 4 years, we finally decided to get married, and now we have been married for almost 2 years. We love each other, and honestly, the only person who had a problem with this relationship was Jade. She used to be really rude and impolite to Carol in the beginning and would make horrible remarks about her whenever she would come over in the initial stages of our relationship. But I told her that I would ground her and take away her phone if she continued to do that. She started behaving herself a bit, but she would still shoot her nasty looks and constantly tell me that she hated her after every single visit. After we announced our engagement, she had another breakdown, and we had a big fight where she accused me of betraying her and said that she was never going to speak to me again. But then we made up because we obviously had to. But she still refused to attend the wedding. So things have not been good, and I have had a lot of problems trying to balance my life and keeping both Jade and Carol happy. I'm just very thankful that Carol is such an understanding partner, and she never takes offense at any of the things that Jade says, because she's just that forgiving and kind-hearted. Jade is just that difficult to be around. But for the past couple of years, she has mostly just kept her mouth shut and kept her problems with Carol to herself. She doesn't interact with her stepmom at all. And even though they live in the same house and have been for the past 4 years, they literally never speak to each other if they can help it. Carol does occasionally speak to her as politely as she can whenever she absolutely needs to, but Jade doesn't even look at her and pretends like she doesn't even exist, and I've made my peace with it. This is as good as it's going to get, and I can't help it now. Almost a month ago, Carol and I threw a party to celebrate our 2-year anniversary. We invited a couple of our friends and family members and some coworkers. We were having the event at home just like our first wedding anniversary, so Jade was there. On our first anniversary, Carol and I had a similar party, but Jade had refused to be part of it and had gone over to a friend's house. But this time, she decided to stay. I was kind of skeptical about having her there for the event, and in the end, she proved that I was right to doubt her intentions. Once all the guests had arrived, everybody was socializing and drinking and having a lot of fun. And then all of a sudden, Jade announced that she wanted to make a speech in our honor. Carol and I were shocked, and so was everybody else, because I think pretty much everyone knew that Jade did not like my wife, and she had proven it once and for all when she refused to attend my wedding. So for her to announce that she wanted to make a speech, I instantly realized that this could not be something good. I tried to laugh it off and told her that it would not be necessary, but she insisted on it, and eventually we did not want to create a scene, and so we decided to give her a chance and still regret that. She first talked about how she had never had a good relationship with Carol, and we all knew that anyway, so it was not a surprise. But when she said that she wanted to work on that and build a relationship with her, we were all kind of taken aback. But I was still feeling like there was something more to come. I tried to get her to rush through her speech, but she took her own sweet time, and eventually, she announced that the reason she wanted to work on her relationship with Carol was because she knew that she was always going to be an only child and she really wanted the inheritance. But since I was literally under Carol's thumb, she wanted to make sure that she did not end up losing out on anything because of her bad relationship with Carol. Then she went on to elaborate on the only child comment, saying that she was just lucky that Carol was never going to be able to have any children of her own, since she had recently found out that she was infertile. And then she thanked Carol for making sure that she would not have any competition and ended her speech. And then she went into a room, leaving all of us shocked by what she had just done. It's true. A few months ago, Carol had found out that she was infertile. We had been actively trying to get pregnant for almost a year but did not have any success. So we decided to get ourselves tested and found out that she was infertile. In a way, we counted as lucky because she was past 35, so it might have been risky for her as well. But even then, she was very upset because she really wanted to have a child, and so did I. But we made our peace with it and had been trying to get over it. We never bothered to hide it or be secretive about it when we were around Jade. So she had been aware that last year Carol had been very upset around the end of the year because she had found out this devastating news. But we had never, ever expected her to bring something like this up while we were having our anniversary party. And as soon as she had delivered that speech and gone back to her room, Carol broke down into tears, and everybody started trying to calm her down. Most of the guests left a little while after that because it just got too awkward, and I decided to drive Carol to her parents' home so she could live with them for a few days while I dealt with the situation with Jade, because what she had done was unacceptable and a really low blow to my wife. We had tolerated her disrespectful behavior for a really long time, but just because I love her, it does not make her entitled to disrespect other people whom I love. I was furious, and as soon as I got back home after driving Carol to her parents' place, I told Jade that we needed to talk, and she pretended like she didn't even care, but I made it very clear to her that she had to either apologize to Carol and everybody else who had been present at the party and go back to therapy, or she could give up any hopes of being able to go to college in the fall because I would not be funding her, and I would also ask her to leave as soon as she turned 18. I made it very clear to her that she only had 2 choices. She could either do the right thing or she could lose me forever. She didn't even think about what she wanted. Instantly, she told me that she didn't even need me or the family because she was leaving, and that's the reason why she had decided to make that speech so she could go out with a bang and make sure that we knew exactly how low her opinion of Jade was. When I asked her where she was going to go, she told me that she was going to live with her aunt, my ex-wife's younger sister. That's when I found out that apparently for the last couple of weeks, she had been in touch with her aunt, and that was bad news because my ex-sister-in-law, Alice, 35F, was the worst. She had always been insanely jealous of my ex-wife and had even confessed her love to me just for attention the day before our wedding. And that's how she ended up getting thrown out of the family a few years after we got married. Her parents did forgive her, but my ex-wife did not, and I've had nothing to do with that woman for I don't even know how long. But I guess she has still held on to that grudge that she had against me, and she was using my daughter against me, which is insane. I tried to tell Jade that she was not allowed to go to her aunt or even speak to her, but she told me that she was going to be an adult in a couple of months anyway, so she did not need to live with me. And then she said that she wished I had been the one to pass away instead of her mother, and that really hurt. So after that comment, I decided that I would let her go because if she wanted to make a mistake like this, she was free to do so, and she would face the consequences of her actions on her own. After she left, I brought my wife back home, and we had a discussion about whatever had happened. Then it was my turn to break down because Jade had been really hurtful to me and to her. But we had to let her go, and it was very difficult, but we made peace with it. Now almost 1 month has passed, and it has been very difficult for me to not try and care about my daughter. But she has made her own decisions, and I can't control her anymore, and neither do I wish to. But 2 days back, I received a phone call from her, and Jade was in tears. I answered the call as soon as possible, and when I heard her crying, I got really panicked and asked her what had happened. And she told me that apparently her Aunt Alice had initially promised her that she was going to take care of her and make sure that she was able to go to college so that she wouldn't have to rely on me anymore. But for the past month, ever since she had left home and moved in with her aunt, she had been treated like a servant in her house and was made to do all the work. Apparently her aunt was in pain and couldn't do anything for herself, but she had still been doing it because she expected her to have enough funds to send her to college like she had been promised, and she had decided to have a conversation about that with her aunt that day. However, she had been told that she didn't actually have the money. She just intended to help her with taking out the student loan, and even then, she would have to find somebody to be a co-signer for her. And college is supposed to start in just a couple of months, and she's already been accepted into the college of her choice. So she needs to find the money, and that's why she called me. Now she wants to come back and realize that she made a horrible mistake by trusting her aunt. But instead of just taking her back in, I told her that what I had said earlier still stands, and she has to apologize to Carol before I take her back. And now she's pissed because she thinks that I don't care about her at all. So, ITA for telling my daughter that she has to apologize to her stepmom before I bring her back home? Update 1. Hey, so I brought my daughter back home, and yes, she did apologize to Carol. Jade reached out to Carol a couple of days after I told her that I would only let her back in and support her financially if she apologized from the bottom of her heart. And I don't know if her apology was sincere or not, but she did what I asked her, so now she's back. She has been very distant from both of us since she has been home, but Carol is pretty much used to this kind of treatment. Not me though. However, I am willing to cut her some slack because apparently for the past month, she has been working really hard at her aunt's house. Coming to that, she told me that her Aunt Alice had reached out to her on social media and said that they had never been formally introduced to each other because our families did not like her much. But she wanted to get to know her sister's only child, and that's how they got to talking. I read the messages, and she had been totally brainwashing and manipulating Jade to turn against us, and she had been putting all these ideas into her head. I found it really disturbing because it's been years since I've even spoken to this lady, and she still seems to have it in for me. I haven't been able to speak to Jade much as I said earlier, but from whatever she told me, Alice really still dislikes me. I guess it's because for those couple of years when she was not a part of the family, she was living on her own, and I think she had to suffer a lot financially. She was never able to go to college, and by the time her family started speaking to her again, she already had a job, and she didn't feel like rejoining college, so she just stuck to working. And now since she doesn't have a degree, her options are pretty limited, and I guess she holds me responsible for it, even though it's really not my fault. She was in her mid-20s when her family started speaking to her again, so she could have easily made the choice of going to college and getting a degree, but she chose not to. I don't think that's my fault, and I don't think it's my fault that her family cut her off. It was because of her own behavior that it happened. Anyway, that's all I got out of Jade, and I'm just glad that she's back now. Even though she's keeping to herself, I know that she feels really bad about whatever has happened, and I know that she's going to try and be better in the future. I can just feel it. Some people are going to criticize my choice of letting her back into the family, but she's my daughter. I can't let her go, and honestly, not even Carol seems to have a problem with it because I knew that if she did, she would have communicated that to me. We know that she's a troubled kid and she has agreed to go back to therapy, so we're hoping that it's going to help her, and even when she goes away to college, she has agreed to continue the therapy sessions on video calls. As for the college funds, because of her behavior, I have told her that I'm going to pay for the last few semesters, but for the first few she's going to have to figure out where herself, and she was very cool about it. She said that she accepted the decision since she knew she had been horrible to deal with in the past and it was a fair punishment. So she's going to have to either take out a loan or work through college like everybody else. But if her behavior improves and she's able to fix a relationship with us, I'm going to take care of the last couple of semesters. I think it's a fair deal and she's already accepted it. Now all we have to do is wait and watch if she's actually going to be better now or if it's all talk. Update 2. Hello? So it's been a couple of months since my last update, and I'm really happy to tell you guys that things have been going great between Jade and me. Even Jade and Carol have been getting along quite well, which is very shocking. A couple of weeks after I posted the last update and Jade had returned home, things started getting better because Jade started putting more effort into speaking to us. For the first couple of weeks she came back, she was very distant and did not speak to anybody properly. But one day while Jade was at home, I was at work and Carol had a day off. The two of them spent the day together at home, and when I came back, I was very surprised to see them laughing and chilling on the couch like old friends. Jade told me later that night that she had a fun time with Carol and regretted the fact that she hadn't even put in an effort to get along with this woman in the past just because of her own preconceived notions. But now she was going to make sure that it changed. And when I spoke to Carol that night, she had tears in her eyes and said that she had never wanted to replace Jade's mother, but she had always wanted to feel like she was really a part of the family and not just my wife, and it was finally happening. I was overjoyed because two of my favorite people were finally getting along, and up until this moment, everything has been so surreal that it really feels like a dream. Jade could only spend a couple of weeks back home because she had to start college, but those few weeks were enough for us to reestablish a good relationship again. Even when she went off to college, both Carol and I went to drop her off and we had a tearful goodbye, which was pretty embarrassing for her later since a couple of people from her year saw her. Anyway, we get on FaceTime every once in a while and keep each other updated on our lives, and it's been great so far. And I'm really keeping my fingers crossed that it continues to stay this way because after a long time, I feel like I'm truly happy, and I feel like I'm walking on cloud 9. To be honest, I've even been speaking to her therapist, and she has told me that she has shown a lot of progress in the past few weeks, and I'm really proud of her for that. It just goes to show that it's never too late to reconcile with people who you thought were lost, and this might not be the case for every family, but I know that I was right to not give up hope in my daughter's case. And now we are as happy as any other family, and I couldn't have asked for more. Update 3. Hello. So a lot of you were asking me about what happened to Alice after my last update because I had not spoken about her or even mentioned her. Well, that was intentional. I wanted to make sure that that update was positive and did not include any of the negativity on purpose. But since you guys seem to want to know, she is not part of the family anymore, and this time I think it's pretty permanent. After Jade came back home and told us how Alice had been the one to turn her against our family and manipulated her into believing that I was against her and she needed to stand up to me, I told my in-laws, her parents, all about it. We found out that she was really putting herself in a risky position by doing this since she was heavily relying on her parents for money. So after the fiasco with my daughter, my in-laws decided to cut Alice off and told her that they would not be writing her any checks anymore. She got pissed off and brought up how it was their fault that she did not have a well-paying job because they were not able to send her to college on time. And I think that's ridiculous because I know plenty of people who have not even been to college but still lead a respectable life and don't have to count on their parents. I think it has more to do with the fact that she is lazy and doesn't want to do anything that involves any amount of hard work to improve her situation. So I don't think she has anybody to blame but herself, no matter how hard she tries to make it seem like it was her parents' fault that she ended up like this. My ex had never been the golden child like she insists. Both of them had been treated pretty equally, and I can vouch for that. But she literally always wants to victimize herself and act like everything that has happened to her is somebody else's fault. Anyway, she has been cut off by her family now, and the only way she can survive on her own is if she decides to step up and work hard. I don't even understand why she thought it was a good idea to try and turn my daughter against me when she was still dependent on her family for financial support. It was a stupid decision on her part, and now she's going to have to suffer the consequences of doing that. I'm just lucky that she has no access to me, so she can't bother me and try to guilt-trip me or blame me for what has happened because I'm sure that if she had a way, she would definitely go all out and try to make me look like the bad guy. I'm surprised that she hasn't even tried to put up a post or whatever yet, but I guess she's gonna hold out on that since she is still trying to plead with my in-laws and get them to go back to supporting her. But they have made up their minds and have said that she's old enough now. If she still doesn't know how to take care of herself, then it's not their problem anymore. I think that's the right and at this point, pretty much the only way to deal with her. Now talking about my family, things have been great as I mentioned in my last update that was just a week ago. This weekend, Jade came back home 3 days back and said that she wanted to take a road trip with us. It was very impulsive and very out of the blue, and initially we were kind of skeptical about it. But after giving it some thought, we decided to finally go because life is short. We need to make the most of the time that we have, and Jade has expressed interest in going out somewhere with us after ages, and we really wanted to bond. She said that she was sick of speaking to us on the phone, and she just wanted to hang out with us for some time because she was getting kind of lonely in college. Her roommate was away for a few days spending time with her family, so she wanted to spend some time with us as well. So we left last morning, and after a 6-hour drive, we are finally at the beach. Everything was pretty last minute, but we managed to find a good room in a hotel, and we were going to spend the next 2 days in the water, and then we're going back home and she's going to go back to college. She's going to miss a few days of college, but she doesn't even seem to care about that because she's just so happy to be here with us. This morning when we were at the beach, I saw Jade and Carol having the time of their lives in the water, and they were splashing each other and laughing like crazy. I can't even tell you guys how happy it made me feel. I felt like I was finally content, and I can't explain it. There was a warm, glowy feeling in my chest, and then I joined them, and we had fun together as a family. In about half an hour, we are going to go out shopping, and then we're going to go for dinner. Life is pretty amazing right now, and I just want to freeze this moment in time and stay right here forever. I know that I can't do that, and we're going to have to go back to a normal life in a few days, but for now, I just want to pretend like this is something that we can live in forever. And yeah, I'm just very happy, no complaints anymore. Now on to the next story. Story 3. Girlfriend secretly married my brother behind my back and cheated on me. Now she got pregnant and wants to keep his baby. My girlfriend had an affair with a coworker, 30M. She even went on a 7 days vacation with him. After she told me about her affair, she begged for mercy and we went into counseling. She blocked him in everything and she showed me that she wanted to fight for our relationship. 3 months into our reconciliation, we were doing great. I even told her that I wanted to have a baby with her someday. And then her face went pale. I asked her what was wrong and she told me that she was pregnant. It was from AP. I was obviously and asked her to have an abortion or put the baby into adoption, but she wants to keep the baby and making me the dad. I want to be a father, but I want it to be my own child, not someone else's. Should I leave her or should I try to convince her to abort? Edit. For more context, we have been together for 4 years. We started as roommates because she needed money to pay her house. The affair lasted 2 months. She confessed the affair to me after a working trip. The AP told her to leave me for him. She got scared and left him. She confessed everything to her family and mine as a gesture of reconciliation. Update 1. So yesterday I posted this asking for suggestions and help. Someone in this Reddit told me about some other social network that they could be using. So I followed her suggestion and I went through her laptop. Coworker AP30M doesn't exist. The real AP is my brother 24M and has been going on for more than 2 months. They have been making fun of me, my body, and my insecurities behind my back. They have been making all kind of stuff in my house where I was working outside. I work as a cook, but that's not the tip of the iceberg. They got married during that 7-day vacation. And the worst of all, my parents knew about this as well as her family. They were sending photos to each other. I found all this looking through all her chats. She didn't had added my brother, but I know is him because of the photos and some things that only he knows. Well, I waited for her to come back from work. I was feeling and him still broken and really hurt. Once she came back, I asked her immediately about this. She just smiled and told me that she was tired of pretending, that she only stayed with me until the lease was over and that the child was my brother's. I packed my stuff and left. I'm now with my big sister. She is as shocked and hurt as I am. She has been calling my parents, brother, and girlfriend all day. My parents are the only one who tried to contact me, but I don't answer. I will cut off my parents and brother. Thank you for all the support. I will update if something else happens, but right now I just will try to calm down. Comments where OP has replied. Comment, what the actual hell? My brother. It's time to go scorched earth. Expose them online to everyone they know. Your friends, coworkers, everyone. Does her family know? Her parents do know about it. They were there with my parents. Update 2. Hi. It's been 3 days since everything exploded. I've been really sad and depressed during these days, but I'm with my sister and that's making me feel better. For people who are reading this first, my girlfriend cheated on me and married my brother behind my back. Then she left me. She is pregnant with his child, and my parents and hers knew about this. I have to answer some questions I received. You slept with your girlfriend after she told you about the affair? No, I didn't, but I did sleep with her when she was married to my brother. I still don't know why they would do that. Does the rest of the family know? No, but I already told them. Even my ex-girlfriend family. The only person who knew were my parents and hers. Does your sister knows? No, she has been like an outcast for my family. She is lesbian, so my family didn't like her much. She has always been there for me. She is my best friend. Now with the update, I've been staying with my sister this 3 days. I've been really depressed, but she was with me all the time. We even played some cyberpunk. I had to left my job because my sister don't trust me with a knife in my hands at this moment. I had attempted to suicide before. She told me what my parents told her. They want to meet with me to explain everything. She told me that I didn't need to do it if I didn't want it, but I want to know everything, so I have met with them this Friday. I went to take some things from my previous house and my brother was there with my ex. My sister, who came with me in case something happened, almost punched him. He has been reputed for most of the family as well as my parents. So that's the update. My family keeps breaking and I'm looking forward to confronting my parents. Thank you for your good messages and the bad too. My sister is reading me your comments and I'm happy with your suggestions. Comments where OP has replied. Comment. It's completely absurd that parents press charges against a son. Move on, relies on your sisters and go to full and see to all of them. That's my plan. I want to get away from them and never see them again. The only motive I would see them is to make a paternity test on the baby and nothing more. Commentator warns OP about his parents trying to manipulate him. Have the sister there to support OP during the meeting with the parents. They were looking and my brother giggled. When my sister heard that, I had to hold her. She was really mad. She has always been protective with me since I am the little one. She is the family member who is more closer to me since we were kids. 1. She told me that she would be with me, so I don't worry about that. 2. I have had a strange relationship with them since their reaction when my sister came out as a lesbian. So I don't expect them nothing less to try and manipulate me. Thank you for your concern. Update 3. In 2 hours, I will be seeing my parents. I've been feeling pretty uneasy all day. I have prepared some questions and a recording device. Context for people who are reading this first. My girlfriend cheated on me and married my brother behind my back, then broke up with me. She is pregnant with his child, and my parents and hers knew about this. Sorry for bad English. So yesterday I went to meet my parents with my sister. I had all prepared, questions, a recording dispositive, and I wanted some answers before going no contact. Some people from here advised me not to go and I should have listened to them. Once I arrived there with my sister, my parents were mad that she was there with me. I told them that they were in no position of making demands. Then they tried to make an apologize that didn't sounded like one. But I just asked them the first question. For how long did you know about this? They were quiet. But then my father said that they were leaving them their own house for them to make their deeds. Can you imagine? I was not hurt, I was furious. I knew that my brother was the golden child. But this just inferred me. I just keep asking them questions and I discovered that the first who discovered the affair was my ex-GF dad. Then he contacted my parents and the 4 of them met with my brother and my ex and the 6 of them came with the idea of the blissful lie, words of my dad. They didn't want it to hurt me, but they thought that my brother and my ex would be happier together. Since they decided to betray me in the first place, I was really furious with that. My sister was really pissed too, and she started screaming at my parents. Then my brother came. My sister and I went quiet, and my mom started making stories about mending things and been there as an aunt and an uncle for the baby. My sister was angry and said that she wouldn't be there for that kid. Then my brother said something like, "This will be the only child you will have related by blood." My sister went silent and I punch him without thinking. Is the first time I punched someone, and I couldn't be happier, to be honest. My brother started bleeding from his nose and my parents started yelling at me. I just told them that they had lost 2 children and we left. Now I'm here in my sister's house and my hand hurts, but I'm happy for protecting my sister and myself. I will start therapy soon and I am thinking in joining the gym too. But as long as I am writing this, my bad thoughts are less common, so I think that's great news. Is the 4th time I try to put this update in this subreddit. Edit. All my family knows about what happened. My ex's family too. I send them the chats between my brother and my ex. I even send the recordings of my meeting with my parents. Update 4. Feeling down. It's been a week since my confrontation with my parents and nothing had happened. I've just been feeling down lately, without force and just tired. I have seen my post in other sites and most of people make fun of me and called me a bad writer. This is not fiction, I don't know how to proof it. Should I put images of the texts I found? I'm just tired. My brother and my parents have pressed charges against me for breaking my brother's nose. So another bad news to the collection. I'm looking for proof to see if I can sue them back for everything they did to me. I will update soon with more information. Thank you for all your kind messages. I'm still feeling down, but like Elton John said, I'm still standing. Update 5. Hello. I've been reading your comments and your messages. Thank you. It really helped me. I have been feeling down, but now I kind of feel good. I have contacted with a lawyer who recommended me not to take action against my family yet. His suggestion was, wait until the trial to defend myself with the proof I gathered and then sue them back. I will have to be in court the 21st of January, so I have more time to think about everything. My sister and I started the paperwork to change our surnames, so we will still be family, but only the 2 of us. I will go this Christmas with my sister, her girlfriend and her family, so at least I won't be alone during the celebrations. My sister and I adopted 2 dogs too. One is old, 13 years, and the other is younger, 2 years. So now I have more company. Thank you for all the kind messages and sorry for the constant updates. I just needed to write it and see your positive messages, and your suggestions are helping me a lot. I'm very grateful and I consider you more family than my blood-related one. Comments where OP has replied, comment, thumb up. It's completely absurd that parents press charges against a son. Move on, relies on your sisters and go to full and see to all of them. P, that's my plan. I want to get away from them and never see them again. The only motive I would see them is to make a paternity test on the baby and nothing more. Now on to the next story. Story 4. Spineless husband told my infertility secret to his family, allowed them to berate me, and now wants custody of our donor-conceived daughter. My husband Owen and I have been trying for a baby for years with no luck. I would be happy to adopt, but Owen's family is against it and has influenced my husband to also be against it. After our 2nd year of trying, I begged my husband to go with me to get a checkup to see if either of us or both of us is infertile. He was strongly opposed to this, as all the men in his family are extremely fertile, but eventually gave in. And as it turns out, his sperm count is extremely low. He was heartbroken, as was I, and we both got therapy. After a year of no longer trying, I got pregnant but lost the baby, and we were devastated. Owen blamed himself and proposed that we start the process of getting into a family planning center for a sperm donor, which I agreed to. He asked me that we not tell either of our families about this or our friends, and I agreed because I would never want to emasculate him. With the help of our donor, I was able to successfully become pregnant, and we had our little girl last year. She is healthy and progressing amazingly, and I thank God for her every day. I kept my promise and never told anyone. However, Owen is struggling with connecting with our little girl. Here is where the trouble begins. Last month, when he went out of town with his brothers for their friend's bachelor party. While on the trip, Owen told his brothers about our infertility issues and that our baby wasn't biologically his. One of his brothers must have told his wife, who told my husband's mother. I don't know why she would tell my husband's mother, except that she has never liked me. Their mother then came to our house and called me a lying horn, tried to get my husband to leave with her. He just stood there silent. I told her that it was Owen's decision not to tell anyone, and she asked him if this was true. Again, he was silent, which his mother took as me being the liar. She then went to our nursery and started taking everything she'd ever given us for the baby back. I told her I didn't care about it and I made more than enough to buy everything she gave us myself in better quality. This set her off and she called my baby a filthy bastard. When she said that, I did something I know was harsh, but I believe she deserved it. I physically pushed her out the door. I didn't hit her, but I did put my hands on her shoulders, pushing her out the door, and threw all her shitty things out with her. After spirits had calmed down, I realized my husband had said nothing when his mother was berating me, calling me a liar, and when she called our child a filthy bastard. So I asked him why he was silent. He said he wasn't raised to be disrespectful the way I was, and that his mother hadn't said anything that wasn't true, she was just hurtful with what she'd said, and that we should let it go and wait for his mother to forgive us. I told him that I would never let it go, that his mother and anyone who agreed with her was not welcomed in our home, and that I don't need to be forgiven when I've done nothing wrong. He then said the house was his and as the head of the family it was his decision. I told fine, but why did he allow her to call me a liar and expletive? Those things are not true, and our child, no child really, should be called a bastard. He just repeated he would not argue with his mother. After that, I stopped speaking to him and started gathering up my daughter's things and purse and walked out the door with her. He tried to stop me and told me I couldn't take his daughter anywhere without him, and I lost the little bit of composure I had left. I told him she wasn't his daughter. He'd proved he didn't see her as his daughter when he'd allowed his mother to call her a filthy bastard, and told him she wasn't his. He broke down into tears and begged me to come back inside. But at the time I felt nothing. He looked pathetic to me. I've taken my baby with me and gone back home to my parents and finally told my family the truth, which feels so good. They are completely in support of my decision and are not allowing my spineless husband anywhere near us, as he still refuses to apologize to me or set the record straight with his family. However, I told the sister-in-law that I was close to the truth, and she told the rest of his family. Half of his family is understanding, while the other side is on his mother's side. But they all are mad at my husband. I need time to cool down, but I know eventually my husband and I need to figure our marriage out. One thing is for certain, I will not return to his house until he apologizes to me and promises to protect me and his daughter fiercely. I want to see this in action form, starting with him telling his mother what she did was wrong and banning her from coming to see us until she asks for my forgiveness. We were also planning on having more children as he wants a big family. But that is off the table as I don't believe he is ready and we both need to get back into therapy. Comments where Op has replied. Comment 1. Ask yourself this: do you believe he is capable of changing? Everything he has said and allowed to be said to you is nothing but disrespectful. OP. I am beginning to conclude he does not love me enough to change or protect us. Comment 2. Does he have any redeeming qualities? It does not seem so, and I'm sure you are aware. There is nothing worth saving. Please don't allow yourself or your child to continue to be abused by these total expletive OP. I will most certainly never allow my baby to be abused verbally or physically, and his redeeming qualities are few. Comment 3. I'm confused. Your husband had a low sperm count, but he was still producing sperm, and the IVF clinic would normally harvest your husband's sperm and choose the healthiest candidate and then inject it directly into one of your eggs. Why did you decide to get a third-party sperm donor when your husband was still producing sperm, albeit at a much lower quantity? Defective sperm and low sperm count are not the same thing. OP. A healthy donor was less expensive and had a higher chance of success than IVF. We've had many friends who did IVF and spent hundreds of thousands of dollars only to have no results and or more miscarriages. We explored all our options thoroughly and he chose this one. Update 1. February 1st, 2024. I want to start by thanking those who were so kind. Your words of encouragement and advice were greatly appreciated. Here is my update. Apparently, after I left my husband's house, my MIL, BIL, and SIL accused me of cheating. I'd already begun speaking with a lawyer after Owen refused to tell the truth to his family. But knowing he let them tell other people I cheated is like getting punched in the chest. I'm now renting a nice 2-bedroom apartment. My siblings and their partners have helped me furnish it, and my top priority is ensuring my baby has everything she needs. Currently, I'm working to create a cozy nursery for her and hiring a nanny. Facing the end of my marriage is terrifying, but I'm learning to accept my new reality. When I notified Owen I was going to file for divorce, he started calling and messaging nonstop. His messages ranged from begging me to come home, telling me he will tell the truth and get therapy again, begging to see our baby, and then threatening to drag me home. I told him the divorce was happening whether he liked it or not, because he failed as a husband and failed even worse as a parent. He then sent photos and videos of my things in the garbage and him and my BIL trashing the nursery. His exact words, "I don't need it anymore." In the most disturbing video, he threw our baby's car seat in a dumpster. I do not recognize him or his behavior anymore. He claims to miss his daughter and me but is trying to make his behavior my fault for not doing what I'm told. This is not the man I agreed to marry. The man I married was smart, kind, gentle, thoughtful, and funny. But this expletive from him was waiting for me the moment I didn't obey and take the disrespect from his family to save him from the humiliation of his infertility. Before the fallout with his mother, he was nothing like this. It's certainly not an excuse, but I believe it all centered on him feeling emasculated and humiliated by his family. I just can't believe he couldn't at least stand up to his family for me and our baby, the one he said he would die for. I am not blocking Owen as my lawyer said to email everything he says to me to him, but the constant threatening messages make me scared to leave my home. Owen knows where I work and has repeatedly told me he will drag us back if that's what it takes and that I'm making him do this. My lawyer and I are working on a restraining order, but every woman who was attacked by her ex-husband knows restraining orders don't keep you safe. However, things took a turn when my FIL showed up on my parents' doorstep, and it's the reason I decided to update. My FIL asked to speak with me. My parents told him they would call me and ask, but if I said no then that was final and he would not be welcomed back. I only agreed to speak to FIL because he told my parents he was there to apologize for his family and set the record straight. My dad called me as my FIL was blocked from calling me, and when I picked up, my FIL immediately apologized for his wife's behavior. He wanted to hear my side of the story as he did not believe I cheated. I thanked him. I was never close to FIL, but we've always been civil and let him know of course I did not cheat. I told him of his son's infertility and that Owen proposed we get a donor. I told him very clearly it was his son's decision and that because my FIL and his family put blood as the only valid form of family, my husband made me lie so our child would be treated equally. After I finished, my FIL seemed stunned. He was quiet for a while, then asked if his wife and son could come over and see my daughter in person as they missed us and were ready to be a family again. But I told him no. FIL then asked if there was anything Owen could do to fix the marriage, and I again told him no. FIL tried to say I was being unfair, but my dad stepped in and said FIL was overstaying his welcome. Before I hung up, I told FIL that his son was sending me abusive messages daily, and if he truly was sorry then he should make his son stop. Then I hung up. My parents said my FIL was irritated that I did not respectfully say goodbye or give Owen a chance to save his marriage, but left with little fuss after my parents laid into him about raising his swine of a son to threaten his wife and child. Telling his father must have worked because I haven't gotten a single message from Owen since then. I do not want anything from my STBX, not child support, not alimony, not the house or any of his other assets. I just need him to agree to the divorce and give up his parental rights so my little girl can grow up with a family who loves her unconditionally. I have a good degree and a great job. My child and I will be fine without him. Owen's lawyer has made it clear they're going to fight us for full custody, and my STBX has significantly more money than me, but my lawyer is confident in our case and I trust them. Today, my MIL has been trying to contact me as she wants to be in my daughter's life and is saying she is ready to accept her as she is, as if my daughter needs to be accepted by her. If it's up to me, their whole family will never see us again. Additional comments from OP. Owen has destroyed hundreds of thousands of dollars of my electronics, clothes, furniture, and paintings. That's the only thing I will be making him pay me back for. I don't want any of his assets, just the things I worked hard to earn and he destroyed. There is a report. I don't know what will come of it. I had been living with my parents for 2 weeks before the first post and already had started to talk to a lawyer. Whether or not me and my husband worked on our marriage, I planned on not living with him for at least a while after he said it wasn't my house, and my parents pressured me to get a divorce attorney immediately when I moved into their house. Even when I still slightly thought things might work out, I was preparing. I went back and forth mentally, but I knew this was not sustainable. My family did most of the work finding me an apartment, paying for furnishing it. It just took a while for me to leave my parents and physically move in. The only truly recent update is my FIL talking to me and learning through my other family my MIL wants to reconcile. Comments where OP has replied. Comment 1, you're a fool not to get child support. You should go for court-ordered support, his paycheck garnished. OP. Maybe I'm a fool, but this isn't his child. He doesn't care about her. He just wants to hurt me and make me go through this. Comment 2. It doesn't matter if she is biologically his or not. Child support is for the child and legally he is the father. You'd be a fool not to go for child support. I get not wanting anything of his for yourself, but as I said, the support is for the child and goes to the child and represents as part of the care for her. ESP, if you push for full custody, it's to help provide for her care. Also, what a expletive. You're a saint to not push for what you're legally allowed to. God, what a dick. I'm glad you got her and yourself out of that situation. OP, he doesn't want this child. I'm beginning to think he never wanted a child, he just wanted to fit expletive part. I'm going to take care of my daughter. I don't need his money. She also has my whole family looking out for her. My baby will want for nothing. Why would I force money out of a man who does not love her and has no connection with her apart from staying in my life to make me miserable? Comment 3. Going to be buried in the comments, but how does one move out? Find an apartment, get the rental papers taken care of, move into and furnish a new apartment within 3 days? Seems a stretch. OP. This update is not chronological by day. I've been living with my parents for 2 weeks before I made my first post, and my family was working to get me out of my parents' house the entire time, as well as furnishing my apartment. I paid for some of the things, and my siblings, their partners, my parents, and many other family members donated and bought things. Trust me, I could not have done this alone. Now on to the next story. Story 5. Husband called my elderly dad a leech and refused to let him stay with us after an accident. So I left him, moved out with my dad, and filed for divorce to teach him a lesson. So, for context, I've been married to my husband for almost 2 years now. He and I have been together for 5 years, and I thought we were a good match up until now. I am 28 and he is 30, and we met each other through friends. While we were dating, we did not really have any problems as such. The only thing I ever noticed was that he seemed to be a little uncomfortable around my father. I had to try to talk to him about it several times, but he told me that it was nothing and he was just shy. I found it a little strange because my dad was somebody who could make everyone feel comfortable around him, so I didn't understand why he was shy around my dad. He would never speak to my father, and whenever my dad would come around to visit, he would be very quiet and distant. But that was not the case with any other family members, and he seemed quite comfortable with them. I tried to get him to talk to me about it, but every time that I brought this up, he would just tell me that I was overthinking things and he did not have anything against my father. He told me that he spoke to my father just like he spoke to everybody else and acted the same way around him. So I decided not to talk to him about it again and again because every time it was the same conversation. I figured out that maybe I was just being a little oversensitive and decided to let it go. After he proposed, I did not bring it up again. The reason that I stopped talking about it was because, if I'm being honest, I could be a little too sensitive about my father. My father is not young. My parents had me when they were way past the average age of conception, so naturally my dad is a lot older than the average father of somebody around my age. He is already 72, and when I was younger, a lot of people used to be very insensitive, and they used to make fun of me for having parents who were so much older than everybody else. It was a whole thing, and I was really sensitive about this. Besides, I had also lost my mother a couple of years before I met my husband, and my dad was my only surviving parent, so he was very important to me, and I could not stand the fact that my husband did not seem to have a very comfortable relationship with him like he did everybody else. But I had discussed it with my father, and he said that he did not have a problem with it. He believed that maybe my husband just needed some time to open up to him, and he was fine with it. And as long as my dad was fine with it, I did not have a problem with it either. However, after we got married, things started getting even weirder between them. It was mostly my husband's fault because whenever my father would come by to visit, he would start acting very iffy. It just felt like he was waiting for my dad to leave and was not wanting us. He would look very uncomfortable, and he wouldn't even bother to try and hide it. If my dad tried to talk to him, he would only reply in a very brusque manner and shut the conversation down quickly. Most of the time, he would make up some excuses about having work to do and then leave the room. He would only come back out from his office once he knew that my father had left. I found it very insulting, and I tried to tell him that this was not cool and it was quite disrespectful to my father. But he kept gaslighting me and told me that he actually did have a lot of work to catch up on and this had nothing to do with my father. I stayed with him and I believed all of these things because I really loved him and I wanted to make it work. Besides, apart from the issue with my dad, he and I were pretty much perfect together. We literally did not have any other problems apart from this one, and I kept consoling myself, trying to make myself believe that eventually he would get over this weird thing he had with my dad and accept my family instead of trying to run away from it. I really thought that it was going to work out eventually, but a couple of days ago, I had an eye-opening realization. So my father recently had an accident because he lost his balance and had a nasty fall from the stairs. Thankfully, it was not from a great height, and he only sprained his ankle and broke his wrist while trying to break the fall. Luckily, he had shouted loud enough for his neighbor to be able to hear it, and they had been kind enough to attend to my father and take him to the hospital. It was a pretty bad sprain, and even though he insisted that he was fine, I knew that he needed my help. He had to stay overnight at the hospital because he was in no condition to be moved back home, and there were also a few concerns about his advanced age, so he stayed overnight for observation, and I stayed with him that day. After I had told my husband about it, I expected him to at least visit my dad at the hospital, but he didn't. However, at the time, I did not have any time to worry about it. I was pretty shaken up from the incident, and I was not ready to let my father go back home alone. So I called my husband up and suggested that I bring my father home with me so I could help him recover for the next couple of days because they were the most crucial, and after 1 week, I would help him move back into his own house and hire a nurse for him. I thought that he wouldn't have a problem with it because what I was asking for was quite reasonable. I thought that he would agree with it quite readily, and I was only asking as a formality before bringing my dad home. But instead, he told me that he was not comfortable with that. I was very pissed off and exhausted from the previous day already, and when he said that he was not comfortable with it, I got quite annoyed. I started fighting with him immediately, and he told me that I was being unreasonable and that I should consider the fact that we don't really have a spacious house. So we will have to compromise on our privacy if we decide to let my father live with us. I thought he was being stupid because I did not care about our privacy or anything petty like that because this was my father that we were talking about. It was just a matter of a few days, and then once he had recovered, he would be back in his home in no time. My dad is very important to me, and I thought he should have been more sensitive, but he thought that he was being reasonable and I was asking for too much. I was already very pissed off, and that argument just made things worse. So I told him that I had noticed that he hadn't even shown up for my father when he heard from me that he had been in an accident, and it was the bare minimum that he could have done. So I confronted him once and for all, and I asked him what the real reason was and why he was not fine with my father living with us. And he said something that I don't think I can ever forgive. He told me that he feels like my father is always trying to leech off of us and he was not comfortable with it. So far, he had just been trying to avoid my father because he did not want to say anything about it, but since I had insisted that he tell me the truth, he had to say it out loud. I was really shocked and I didn't even know what to say. So he went on talking and explained that the reason he had come to this conclusion was because every time we would meet, my dad would start complaining about how little he made now and how all his money would go into paying off the bills and then he would have nothing left for himself at the end of the month, and then I would give him money out of obligation, and he would just find that entire ordeal really annoying. He believed that I did not owe it to my father to give him an allowance every month, and he thought it was very weird that I was fine with this arrangement. That really irked me because it was my money that I was giving to my father because I knew that he was retired and I wanted to be able to help him. I did not think there was anything wrong with what I was doing, especially since it was the money that I was spending. I never asked him to contribute to it, and I didn't expect it from him. So he had no right to ask about it. Even though he would occasionally send money to his family, I never questioned him about it, so I did not understand why he felt that he had the right to comment on this. My father had been a high school teacher before he retired, and he had saved up some money, but now that he was getting older, I wanted him to be able to live well. He did have his own retirement funds set aside, but everything was getting more expensive by the minute, and he would only complain about it to me because he did not want to ask for help directly even though he needed it, and I did not want to have to ask, so I would just offer it to him. It was an unsaid agreement between the two of us, and as long as my father and I were okay with it, I did not understand why my husband thought that he had the right to make this into something ugly. I did not appreciate the fact that he had said something so cruel about my father, like he was leeching off of us, and I hung up the call while he was still trying to explain what he meant because I was just not interested. Even if my dad was leeching off of anybody, it was me. I was his daughter. He had every right to ask me for money, and he's my father, and this is my money, so I can give it to whoever I please as long as it's not affecting my ability to split the rent with him and contribute equally to the household expenses. I don't think it's any of his business what I do with my money. That was my thought process, and so I decided to live with my dad for the next couple of days. I was very upset with my husband, and I expected him to apologize to me, but he just kept texting me and telling me that I was being childish and unreasonable, and that I needed to understand his perspective as well. My father did not have any idea and still doesn't know anything about any of this. He has asked me about my husband a couple of times, and he seems a little disappointed that his son-in-law has not come to visit yet, but I'm not going to tell him about what my husband said about him because I know it's only going to hurt him and I don't want that to happen. However, it's getting increasingly difficult for me to keep this a secret from him. I did spend a couple of days in my father's place, but I could not live there indefinitely as I had to get back to work. So I had to hire a nurse and move back home. I haven't spoken to my husband since that fight that we had on the phone that day at the hospital. I'm not speaking to him. We did talk a couple of days ago, but even that ended in a fight, so we are back to not talking to each other. I continued to visit my father every day after work, and once I would come back home, I would just go to bed and not interact with my husband at all. I was very upset about everything, and I had been thinking about a divorce, but I just couldn't come to terms with the fact that this was how it was, and I was just really miserable. He did not try to talk to me or apologize to me, and it was very clear from his behavior that he thought that he had not said or done anything out of line. This went on for a couple of days, and then last week, one day he finally spoke to me. He seemed very disturbed, and when I asked him what was going on, he told me that his sister had called him crying and told him that she needed his help because she had been evicted from her rental unit. Apparently, she and her friends had been smoking pot while her landlord was out, which was a very common occurrence. However, they had not anticipated that the landlord would come back home earlier than he usually does, and he figured out from the stench that something funny was going on. So he decided to check on the apartment, and when he went up, she and her friends were not even clever enough to hide the evidence, and it was all laid out in the open. Her landlord was kind of conservative and did not appreciate any of this. It also violated the terms of their lease agreement, so she was evicted on an immediate basis, and she needed a place to stay. His sister Stacy is 21 years old, and she graduated from college 2 months ago. I know that 21 years old is quite young, but I think even then it's old enough to know the difference between trying to have fun and just being irresponsible, and I think that she was just being irresponsible. So I did not have any sympathy to spare for her. Also, I was really pissed off about what he had said about my father, so when he told me that he was thinking about offering Stacy a place to stay, I told him that I was not okay with it. And that's how everything started. When I told him that I was not fine with Stacy living with us, he flipped out on me and started accusing me of being selfish, and he couldn't believe that I was being so vindictive. I don't think there was anything vindictive about what I was doing. I was just giving him a taste of his own medicine. I got into a huge fight with him, and a lot of things were said, and he ended up cursing at me, which he'd never done before. I was very hurt by this, and I decided to tell him that since we were having so many problems, I thought that it was best for us to just get a divorce and get it over with. It had become increasingly obvious to me that these were issues that he could not work past because he was not willing to work on them or acknowledge the fact that this was wrong. So I packed my bags, and I moved out to live with my father because I believe that I never should have given him so many chances. If a man can't respect my family and where I come from, it's very unlikely that he will be able to respect me as a person. I have decided to block him everywhere and haven't been talking to him. I also told my father about everything and he was upset, but he told me that I could still give him a chance if I wanted to. That's how large-hearted my dad is. But I don't want to give him a chance, that's for sure now, because he had the chance to apologize and he chose not to. Instead, he chose to make the situation even worse by acting the way that he did, and I was not going to tolerate that kind of disrespect anymore. I was done. However, recently, a couple of days ago, my mother-in-law and Stacy called me up separately, but they had the same thing to say. They called me on the same day and told me that I was being a total drama queen and that there was no need for me to act this way. They told me that the least that I could do was at least unblock my husband and let him say what he has to say instead of acting like I don't even want to hear his side of the story. I tried to tell them that the things that he has said to me can be no justification for that, and I didn't want to hear what he had to say. But they told me that I was being unreasonable and that these things keep happening when you're married. It's not an option for me to just give up and then leave. I don't understand why not, since I have been disrespected over and over again. I gave him the chance to apologize, but he didn't care enough to do that, and I can still forgive him for disrespecting me. I don't think I have to forgive him for disrespecting my father. That is a very sensitive topic for me, and I don't appreciate the things that he said. He's also well aware of how sensitive I am when it comes to my dad, yet he chose not to care about that and voiced his very wrong opinions. But they insisted that I talk to him, and I really don't want to do that. So, am I the asshole for refusing to talk to my husband after he disrespected my father and said that he leeches off of us? Update 1. Okay, so the general consensus in the comments is that I should leave my husband immediately because he is a huge red flag, and you know what, I agree with that. I can't believe that I was able to ignore it for so long, maybe because I loved him, but I can't pretend that there is nothing problematic about the way he acts around my father anymore. What he said about my dad, I can't pretend that I didn't hear it. He could have apologized for it, but he did not, so now I am left with no other option to leave. I have already spoken to a lawyer, and we are filing for a divorce in a couple of days. I have also blocked my mother-in-law and Stacy, even though I did not have a bad relationship with them. That's actually the reason that I had answered their calls earlier. Even though I was not speaking to my husband, I had always had a very good relationship with both of them, in fact with all of his family. I never had a cross word to say about anybody from his family. However, I understood that even my husband and I definitely had negative qualities as well, but there was no need for anybody to make an issue out of it. I don't think what he said about my father, it was not even a negative quality, it was just something that had happened because of circumstances. My dad needed money and I wanted to be able to provide for him. We had an agreement, it was our thing, no need for him to get involved in it at all. I know that I'm being repetitive, but it just pisses me off every time I think about it. I can't believe I put up with this guy for so long hoping that he'd come around, and he just kept gaslighting me. I feel like a fool, but no worries, I'll get him back. I'm definitely not going to let the divorce be easy and make sure that he pays for everything that he has put me through and said about me and my family. I am in no mood for forgiveness right now. Update 2. It has been 2 weeks since I moved out of my house, and yesterday, my husband was finally served with divorce papers. I have no idea why, but he was actually shocked on receiving it. I don't know what he was expecting. I have not been speaking to him for the past 2 weeks, and I have blocked him and his entire family. I think it was pretty clear that I was heading towards a divorce and our marriage was over. If I really wanted to give him a chance, I would have gone back to him. He was very upset when he received the papers and called me up almost immediately. I think he started yelling at me on the phone. He had called me from his work phone number, which I had not blocked since I had forgotten, but I still answered the call when my phone started ringing because I wanted to know what he had to say about this. The second that I picked up, he started screaming at me. It felt like he had been screaming for a long time. I just caught him in the middle of it. He was very angry, and he kept telling me that what I was doing was unacceptable and that I needed to take this back. He thought that I was joking about this and I was just trying to scare him into apologizing, but he told me that he was not going to be intimidated and he knew that I was not going to leave him. I don't know why he believed that because I had already cut him out of my life and it had been 2 weeks since I had done that. I was doing just fine, maybe not as happy as I could be, but I was doing fine. I did miss him, But I knew that I could not go back to him, not after what had happened, and even now he was not letting go of his pride. He still wanted to prove that he was right. It was more important for him than our marriage. It wouldn't cost him a thing to disrespect my father and apologize to me for hurting my feelings by saying what he said. I was just so tired of him that I told him that I did not want to hear from him ever again and I was serious about the divorce. I had tried my patience with him, but since he did not seem to care about it, I didn't want to waste more of my time and energy on him. I told him that our marriage had been nothing but a huge mistake and I was ready to accept that now because he had shown me that he did not care about me as much as he cared about flattering his ego. I hung up and blocked that number as well. It's been a day since then, and he has not tried to get back in touch with me, so I don't know what's going to happen now. I'm just really exhausted from dealing with all of this. The only thing that brings me any sort of joy now is talking to my father. He is so full of life even at his age, in spite of the injury. He knows that I am upset about certain things and is trying to keep me happy and occupied, and I have to say it's actually working. Update 3. Hey, it has been close to a month since my husband and I parted ways, and so far, he has been putting off responding to my petition. But about a week ago, I unblocked him, and I told him that he had to do it at some point. He couldn't just keep putting it off and then expect it to go away. That's not how it works, and it was going to end up in a loss for him if he avoided responding to the divorce petition. So, a couple of days after that, he finally responded, and he was not contesting the divorce. He had agreed to all the terms that I had set, which I was pretty surprised by. I had actually believed that he was going to put up a good fight, but he didn't, and that was a bit of a shock for me. He told me that he was going to move out of the house in a couple of days since I had claimed it, and he essentially just said that I could have it if I wanted to. He got to keep everything else that he had purchased for the house, which I think is fair. So, currently, he is in the process of moving out right now, and he told me to give him a month before he completes the process. I'm okay with that. Until then, I'm just going to live with my father like I've been for the past few weeks. My dad is getting better. He is healing and he has been able to restore a lot of range of movement back, so that's good news. Everything is going better than expected, but I still feel really upset because I'm going through a divorce, and I never saw this coming. It has been really difficult to deal with, but I know that I have to get through it for my sake and for my father's sake. He doesn't have anybody to take care of him right now. If I start falling weak, then he'll have to be strong for me, and I don't think that's what's necessary right now. I feel kind of bad about everything that is happening, and I want to keep myself distracted, but it's really hard to do that since everything in my life used to be about my husband and my dad since they were my only family, and now he's gone, and I don't know if I can ever fall in love again. There are a lot of things that are really upsetting for me at the moment, but I'm trying to work through them. Update 4. Hi guys. It's been 1 year since I got divorced. We don't really have a long waiting period for the divorce, so we wrapped it up pretty quickly. We also did not have to get into a long-drawn battle for everything that we had, and we divided our assets quite peacefully and amicably. We did not talk during the process except when we met for a couple of negotiations. Both of us just kind of accepted the fact that this was happening. We did not get any closure, but I think no closure is also some sort of closure. He did not apologize for anything ultimately, and I did not have anything to be sorry about, so I did not have anything to say to him. But I think both of us were hurting just the same. The only difference is that he was not willing to let go of his ego, even though that would have fixed almost everything. Anyway, that's all said and done now, and we have not been in touch after the divorce. I also cut off any mutual friends that we had because everybody reminded me of him, and I do not want that. I know it's not the right thing to do, but I did not see any other way out of this. I just want a fresh start, and I want to be able to get over this as soon as I can. I moved into my previous house with my dad a couple of days after he moved out, and I've been living with him ever since. He is healed almost completely, even though he has to put in extra effort to do whatever he used to do easily before. But that's just because of the past injuries and his age. I know that with time it might get better, and I'm hoping that he has a lot of time. I would hate to lose him as well. He has been my only source of support and strength in these difficult times, and I am really truly grateful to him. I don't think anybody would have been there for me like my dad has been. Not even my best friends were there for me like he was, and I know it's an unfair comparison, but I just know that we should cherish our parents while they are here. I don't know if it's the fact that he is slightly older than the average parent, but I always knew that I wouldn't have as much time with him as everybody did with theirs, so I always valued him more. The past few months just made me realize that I was right to do that. Now on to the next story. Story 6. Brother saved me from my parents' plan to make me a teen mom to my nieces while dropping out of college. But now he's struggling with depression because our family disowned us both. Hi, I, 20F, am currently in my 4th semester of college. The fact that I am able to go to college is largely thanks to my brother, Mike, 27M. This resulted in us both being estranged from family, and the reason for this post is that I need to help him with his resulting depression and isolation. Some backstory. We come from a patriarchal conservative Christian background, although we didn't really practice, but everything was always in the obey your parents vibe. My parents, both 43, are the oldest siblings in their families. My father's family, parents, 2 brothers, 1 sister, all live within 20 minutes of my parents' home. All aunts/uncles are married and I have 8 cousins on that side. My mother's family is originally from here as well, but has all since left the area. Grandparents moved to a retirement community in Oz several years ago. Uncle is career military, currently stationed. Aunt Kay moved to Oz after graduating college for her career. We are from a Midwest U.S. state and are Caucasian. This whole fiasco started when my older sister, Lisa, 22F, was in college back in spring of 2020, right before COVID shut down her college that March. She got pregnant after a party. She didn't know until after she was back home in fall 2020. My senior year of high school, I started my college application process while my pregnant sister lived at home. Mike had finished school several years prior and had started his career about 90 minutes away from our hometown. Lisa gave birth to twins a few days after Thanksgiving 2020. In January 2021, I received my early acceptance to my dream school. Nothing like Harvard, but a highly rated public Ivy in my state. I had also gotten enough of a scholarship to cover the tuition, but not room/board. Obviously, I was ecstatic. Unfortunately, that was about to come crashing down. In May 2021, my parents told me that I could not go to school, and that I needed to stay home to raise my nieces, while my sister went back to school, since she needed to support her kids, and thus needed a better education. Much screaming ensued, with my father eventually telling me that his decision was final and that was that. Well, Mike learned what happened, called me and said, "Yeah, that's not happening." And we made plans. I would like to take a moment to give a shout out to the Reddit posts back in early 2021 that discussed the steps to take and things/dose to gather in order to successfully leave home for good. And that's what we did. We had discussed plans a few times when he visited and took me out to lunch, and one day that July, I had my essentials all packed, left a letter for our parents, and after lunch we just went back to his apartment. As you can imagine, the fallout was explosive, starting with angry calls and texts and led to us both being disowned by the family for being disloyal. Mike had predicted this and we were both prepared for it, so it wasn't a surprise. Anyway, that August, he paid my remaining school balance and dropped me off at my dorm, and I've been living and studying here since then. He has continued to pay my room/board and whatever else scholarships didn't cover ever since. I cannot thank him enough for what he has done for me. Since then, we have had pretty much no contact with our parents, sister, and all aunts, uncles, and grandparents on Dad's side. I am still in contact with 2 cousins, F19, F17, who support me and think we made the right decision. We do have contact with Mom's side and have both flown out to us the last 2 holiday seasons to spend with them. This past holiday is when Aunt Kay first talked to me about her concerns for Mike that she noticed. They are very close. She is only 3 years older than him, and we all grew up together in our grandparents' house, so they are like siblings, and I guess she picked up on some things that were off. The issue I need help with. Aunt Kay and I have noticed him seemingly becoming more depressed and isolated, and this is what I'm hoping for some help in helping him. Mike is somewhat introverted and has always had a very small social circle, and a lot of his social outlet was with our extended paternal family. There were family BBQs very often, especially during football season when it was pretty much weekly. Throw in holidays, birthdays, etc., there were probably 2 big family events a month minimum. Mike was able to attend most of those, and he always tried to hang out with my dad and uncles, even though they always acted alarmed to him. With that now gone for the past 18 months, he hasn't really had that outlet. So please, Reddit, any advice would be appreciated. He gave me my life back, and I need to find a way to do the same for him. Thank you all. Date 1. Hi! I just wanted to post a quick update to what I posted last week. I say quick, but it's probably going to be long. So apologies in advance, just trying to get everything out of my head. Mike came down here on Saturday as planned. I had spoken to my Aunt Kay before this, and she thinks if I gently ask direct questions and probe, that he would answer. So that was my plan. My roommates knew the situation and what I was planning to do, and they were understanding and agreed to give us the appointment to ourselves for the afternoon. After he arrived and we ate, I just straight up said to him that Aunt Kay and I had noticed some changes to his behavior and that he seemed really down. He looked at me for a bit and then slowly nodded and agreed. I took this as a good sign that he would be open and honest with me. I said that I wanted to help him and to please be open and talk to me and that I wouldn't judge him for anything. He said okay. Then I pulled out my laptop and mentioned that I had made a post to Reddit about him, and he gave me a very confused look. I sat down next to him and asked him to just read it and we can talk about it. Well, he basically broke down with his head in his hands after reading the title. So yeah, I guess it was pretty accurate. I just held him and said that we would talk whenever he was ready. After a few minutes, he was able to collect himself and we went through the whole post together. Then we started reading the comments one at a time and talking about each one. He took all of the comments and suggestions to heart, and we talked about how he can go about putting himself out there more, both dating and trying to make new friends. In typical nerd fashion, he even broke all of the ideas down in categories: outdoor, indoor, online, and is willing to give pretty much anything a try. The city he lives in isn't huge, but a quick look through its sub on here found a few things, so the opportunity is there. He seemed a little embarrassed, in a good way, about all of the praise he was getting. I knew he would be, but I just told him that other people see him for the wonderful brother that he is. There were a couple comments that mentioned suicide or drug abuse that I really pressed him on. He promised he wasn't doing drugs or drinking excessively. In all of the times I was at his place, he never had more than a 6-pack of Guinness or some craft beer. This is something I'm definitely going to keep on him about since I don't want him to drink his pain away. He said while he never really thought about actually hurting himself, he said he sometimes feels lost and has dark thoughts that can really mess up his mood, and that was struggling and very frustrated with himself at times. He said that he often can't even look at himself in a mirror because he is embarrassed at where he is in his life outside of work compared to his friends. Really just that his closest friends have all moved on to the next phase of their lives and is stuck and feels left behind and not able to move forward. He is scared that he is going to turn into one of those people that have their own dedicated sub on here. He often just drives around the city after work for hours because he doesn't want to go home, and every once in a while he said he has gone to bed with the thought that he didn't really care if he woke up or not. All of this scared me and broke my heart. He agreed that this isn't healthy, massive understatement to say the least, and that he needs to seek some professional help soon. We talked about his social life after college. He said that for the first couple years, he and his closest friends and SOs would meet a few times a week and travel somewhere together every few months. He separated from his GF of 4 years in 2019. He and his friends still met up after the lockdown started in 2020, but it became less and less frequent as the friends were becoming more involved with their SOs and later kids. Eventually, they were meeting once a month or less. Mike recognized this but said he had a hard time meeting new people to go out with or finding people who were looking to make new friends as opposed to just chit-chatting while they did whatever activity they were doing. He said he found it very hard to break into existing friend groups and has some acquaintances, but not really anyone who he feels close to. At the same time, he was going to more and more family functions just to fill a void and be social around people and dote on our nieces after they were born. After that was gone on, he felt completely lost and spiraled down, but didn't know how to communicate how he felt until I forced the issue. It was mentioned that I should not try to keep defending my parents, and I agree. What they wanted to do was inexcusable and unforgivable. I asked Mike if he would ever consider reconciling with the family if they reached out. He said Lisa yes, Mom maybe, everyone else can off. I was a little surprised and asked why, and he said that they basically told him what they really thought of him and his life and interests. He pulled out his phone and showed me the old texts from when I left. Multiple messages from our father calling him a disgrace, disowning him, demanding he return me to them. WTF, I am not property. Calling him the mastermind of this plot to destroy the family and all sorts of other vile stuff. One uncle mocking his manliness for doing things like reading, he likes to read fantasy stuff, as well as his career engineer as something not manly enough. One aunt that threatened to cut his balls off as they are the source of attitude and disobedience. Another uncle that threatened to beat the out of him if he saw him again. I think Mike would wipe the floor with any one of them. More of the same from grandparents, Dad's parents, and some other adults on that side. I had received some nasty messages, just not the threats, and was a little shocked overall, but he just had a little smirk when I gave him a questioning look. He just said that it's good to know how people really feel and where you stand with them. When I asked about Mom, he showed me her last few messages to him. I was expecting more of the same, but it was much different and I am not sure what to make of it. She said, "Your father needs you to bring her back right now." Mike, "Mom, I can't do that. You know if I do she will never be able to get out." Mom, "I know. Please take care of her. I love you both." Mike, "I will. I love you too, Mom." NGL, I cried after that for a bit. So yeah, it turns out that my dad's whole family is a lot more toxic and despicable than I thought. I still can't figure out Mom's reaction though. I asked him point blank if he wanted me to take out a loan to cover my expenses for the rest of my time at school, and he rejected that immediately. I said that I didn't want him going into debt for me and he said that he wasn't. He pulled up his account and showed me the transaction last month from his savings account to my school as proof. He said that he wanted me to be able to finish school debt-free like he did, since it takes so much pressure off. Most of his friends have $140K plus in debt, so even though there is currently a payment pause, eventually that will come due. I asked him how he was able to do that and he said he got merit scholarships plus several grants that covered all but about $2,000 per semester which he could cover himself, and he worked to always have enough money for the difference. We grew up low income, not exactly poverty, but definitely at the low end of the middle class. I would have been eligible for need-based aid as well, but my parents refused to fill out the form, so I wasn't able to get the grants or regular student loans, and they wouldn't co-sign a private loan. This is how they were going to force me to stay. When Mike found out, he did the math and figured out that as long as I was able to keep my scholarship to cover tuition, he would be able to cover the rest. It comes out to about $7,000 a semester that he is covering. I am more comfortable knowing that he isn't going into debt for me, and I am definitely making sure I keep my GPA well above the level needed to keep my scholarships. He told me to not worry about the money and to just focus on doing my best. I also found out that he is still sending money every month to our sister. Something I knew he did before, but didn't realize he was still doing. His response? A shrug and a comment that he was pretty sure the kids aren't eating less. We ended up talking a lot longer than I realized. My roommates came back around 7 o'clock and asked if we wanted to get some dinner. I asked Mike if he wanted to stay and keep talking, and he said yes. We ordered some pizza and the 6 of us plus my 3 roommates and 1 BF, sat in our living room to eat. I could tell this was probably Mike's worst-case scenario of being in a group of friends but not really knowing anyone other than me. His body language showed he was uncomfortable and guarded, body tense, head down, shoulders hunched forward. But my friend Nikki made sure to keep him engaged in the convo, and after 10 to 15 minutes Mike visibly relaxed. He sat back and looked relaxed and was much more forthcoming. I was so happy for him and thought that maybe he is just someone who needs a little more time to really become comfortable enough before opening up and talking freely with new people. He ended up crashing on our couch that night. Sunday morning, he took me to breakfast to talk some more before he dropped me off at work. We had a long hug and he thanked me for recognizing that he needed help and that reading the comments and talking about how he felt and coming up with some ideas and plans made him feel better than he had in a long time. I told him that I love him and I am there for him always and reminded him that we are a team in this. After work, I called Aunt Kay and we talked about everything. She was happy that I was able to get him to open up and understood that it was probably hard for him to ask for help. She is also going to keep nudging him to be more open and to put himself out there more. So this is where we are now. He has some homework to do in finding some new things to try out and just get out and meet people. I also told him that he has to have at least 2 dating accounts open before we meet up again, and I would help him set up a good profile. I am glad that he doesn't really have many regrets about what we did. I know I don't, and is really focused on moving forward. I know, this will be a long and probably sometimes painful process for him, but I told him I would be there for him every step of the way. I have also reached out to some of his friends on SM to see if they are willing to talk with me about him. I also want to talk with their SOs since they know him, and I would like a female friend perspective rather than just a sister perspective. Oh, and to the commenter DM who said I should have sex with him to help him. I'm not sure what to say other than he's not my type, we aren't that close. SMH. I guess this counts as my one update for this. If anything else happens, I can either put it in the comments or my personal page if the post is locked. I would like to sincerely thank everyone who responded for the kind words, love, advice, ideas, and insight into things we hadn't realized or considered. It really meant a lot to both of us. Much love for the hive mind. Edit. I wanted to respond to a few comments that were made before the post was locked/removed. 1. I am definitely going to talk to the financial aid office about my situation and see if I can be considered an independent student for aid purposes. Thanks for the info on that, I did not know this was a thing. 2. I know he is everyone on blocked except for our mom and sister. I know it hurts him that our nieces are likely going to grow up in that environment. 3. The uber-controlling part of my father didn't really come out until our grandparents, mom's parents, permanently moved to Oz. I think since we were all living in their house, it was Grandpa that was the man of the house. Mike was already in college when that happened, so he didn't get the full extent of it. This also coincided with my sister discovering boys in 8th grade, so it could a combination of both. My male cousins, 15 and 16, are already going down the path of my uncles and how they treat their older sisters, and it makes me sad that thought process is continuing. For he was always a great brother to both my sister and me. He doted on us when we were younger and made time to be with us when he got a job and then when he came home to visit from college/work. He would take us both out individually for ice cream or something just to talk. This is something Mom also did for all three of us. Even when we didn't have a lot of money, she took us out once a week to talk about whatever, even if we were just getting $1 MCD's drinks and fries to share. 5. I think the dinner/hangout with my friends was the first time I had seen him interact in a casual social way with people he did not know. It really helped me to see how he first acted stoic and robotic and then saw him slowly ease into the conversation after a while. My friends made a point to keep him involved. The BF, Rob, even got to talk a little about school stuff since Rob goes to the college that Mike did. They both went to my school's biggest rival. It was like as soon as he was able to relax and feel like a part of the room, he changed and was able to engage naturally. 6. He agrees he needs to treat his mental, emotional, and social health with the same priority and focus that he uses to help those he cares about and work on building new relationships. It will likely be a long and sometimes painful process for him, but he knows he is support. 7. He is working on setting up an appointment with a therapist through his employer's EAP to help him work through some of the issues I brought up in the update. I promised him I wouldn't judge him, but some of the things he said really scared me and broke my heart that he kept so much pain inside. 8. I hadn't seen the family texts he showed me before. They are all from when we first left. He just never deleted them. I think everyone is right that my mom is suffering from emotional abuse. I'm worried for her, my sister, and nieces in that regard. 9. I plan on and I've already started doing more FaceTime/phone calls with him instead of just text to try and make a more personal connection with him. More info about Oops family. I realized after my original post that I was way too close to the situation to give an accurate assessment of my family dynamic. I was trying to defend my parents at one point, so I learned a lot by going through the comments here and it made me think. Yes, my parents preached a lot about being a good Christian, obeying your father, etc., but there was more to it that was pointed out. I feel my father's family is a lot more narcissistic and controlling than is typical in our community. My mom's family was from the same church and were far more moderate. So looking now, it's hard to separate the church from the family, but in the end it probably doesn't really matter. For sure, my father was the oldest son even among his cousins and was expected to set the example for the rest of the family. That didn't work out so well and was embarrassing for the whole family. My father wasn't able to get any further education after high school and has basically worked low-wage jobs his whole life. In some contrast, my uncles all went to trade schools and make a much better living than my father. Another hit to his pride. My mom eventually got some computer/software training after I went to school and got a much better job. She make more than my father now, but not so much more that she could support my sister/nieces on her own. My father does not want to raise more kids. He felt he was almost done. I was a senior about to graduate, and the girls were a lot more to handle than expected. This was also mentioned in the comments and is absolutely true. My father and uncles, and apparently my M15 and M16 cousins, act somewhat like an R-rated version of King of the Hill, where they stand around, drink, and basically mock and talk about everything and everyone they don't like. My cousins are starting to turn into my uncles, and my two older female cousins, F17 and F19, are desperately trying to get out as well. Lots of talking about family members, not just my brother, behind their backs, and lots of drunken boasting. Specifically related to my brother, I think some commenters below are correct that a lot stems from jealousy that he makes more right out of school than they will probably ever make in their current paths. My uncles definitely think that any kind of office job is not manly. I've heard this line many times related to Mike. One thing I will give my father credit for is that he totally supported Mike's career path. There are plenty of other things my father had issues with, but the job was not one of them. I apologized that there was confusion on this. They all openly mocked Mike for his interest in reading, computer games, and robotics. He was part of our school's robotics club. They also didn't like that Mike did not like to do things like go hunting or fishing. They all seemed to forget that Mike also played football and was a starter at linebacker for our HS team. I don't know how to explain what a linebacker is to someone who isn't versed in American football other than someone on a seek and destroy mission for the person with the ball. This is somewhat why I think Mike would tear any one of my uncles apart. Like I said, my uncles are good at drunk and bragging, and I think they would wilt if actually confronted. I think the last thing I want to say is that I am worried about my sister, nieces, and mom. So is Mike. He never blocked their numbers. I think if they reached out to him and asked for help, he would instantly go. I don't know if that would be a good idea or not, but he would do it. He was a lot closer to our mom. A bit of a mama's boy TBH, sorry. And I think he would do it and figure out the rest later. Update 2. This has been the most emotional week of my life. I am sitting here in my aunt's living room watching my almost 4-year-old niece asleep. I still can't believe it. Mike and I had been planning on visiting our grandparents and Aunt Kay and her family for a while. We left the day after my summer internship ended. We had no idea that they would also be visiting. My mom and Aunt Kay confirmed that they wanted to surprise us. Well, they succeeded. When Mike and I landed, I turned my phone on. I saw a message from Aunt Kay that was just a selfie of her, my sister, and my mom with a note that just said to have a safe trip and we will see you soon. I almost broke down right there in the airport and showed Mike the message. He started breathing heavy, but his face was unreadable. I am glad he was driving because I don't know if I would have been able to. When we pulled up to the house, my mom and Lisa basically tackled me in the front yard, eventually pulling Mike into a massive group hug as well. Since then, the week has mostly been talking, laughter, tears, and hugs. Mom and Lisa have taken us both aside many times to talk one-to-one, especially Mike. The only negative is that my nieces didn't recognize Mike or I, which is to be expected, I guess, since they were like 8 months old the last time we saw them. I hate that I have missed so much of their lives. They seem to warm up to me in a few days, probably because my mom, Lisa, and I look pretty much alike, only differing in height and hair color. They have yet to really warm up to Mike, but Lisa has repeatedly assured him that they will get to know him. So yeah, that's where we are right now. I am completely emotionally drained, but I couldn't be happier. Mike and I head back home later today, and I start my senior year next week. I know I will get to see them regularly. I am glad my mom finally told my father that she is going to have a relationship with all of her kids, regardless of how he feels. It feels like that giant void in my life is now gone. Thank you for anyone who has read and responded to my story. It has helped both Mike and I these last 18 months more than you will know. Love you all. Update 3. Thank you. We are all doing so much better now. They have visited me at school several times this past semester, and we all spent Christmas at Mike's house. We are still taking things slow with the kids, but I'm getting to know them now and I can't express how happy that makes me. Now on to the next story. Story 7. I discovered my husband's secret family by chance. He had a double life, another child, and was stealing from us. It was a typical Saturday morning. I was in the grocery store, carrying my basket through the aisles, when I noticed him. Marcus, my husband, was standing in the produce area with a basket full of apples. But he was not alone. Next to him was a woman I'd never seen before, and between them was a young girl, no more than 5 years old, who called him Daddy. My heart had stopped. I stood there motionless as the scene unfolded in front of me. Marcus laughed at something the woman said, his hand resting on her lower back in a way that seemed all too familiar. The little girl tugged on his sleeve, pleading for a banana, and he beamed down at her as if she were the center of his universe. I felt as if I were witnessing a movie. This couldn't be genuine. But it was, and it crushed all I thought I understood about my marriage. I did not confront him there. I could not. Instead, I turned around and abandoned my cart in the middle of the aisle, dashing out of the store before anyone could see me cry. When I came home, my mind was racing. How long was this going on? Who was the woman and who was the tiny girl? Marcus returned home a few hours later, acting quite normal. He kissed my cheek and asked about my day, as if nothing had happened. I wanted to yell and demand answers but couldn't bring myself to do so. Instead, I smiled and said everything was good, but inwardly I was collapsing. That night, while Marcus was sleeping, I checked his phone. I'd never done anything like this before, but I needed to know the truth. What I discovered was worse than I had imagined. Texts, photos, even a calendar with a woman from his business. Her name was Vanessa, and the little girl's name was Lily. According to the messages, she is Marcus' daughter. The next morning, I had a knot in my stomach. Marcus had already left, leaving a note on the kitchen counter indicating he had an early meeting. I knew better now. I checked his shared calendar and discovered that he was going to have breakfast with Vanessa and Lily at a diner across town. My hands shook as I dressed and walked out the door. I arrived at the diner right as they were being seated. I sat in my car, looking out the window while Marcus laughed with Vanessa and assisted Lily in cutting her pancakes. It was like watching the perfect small family, one I was not a part of. I experienced a range of feelings, including rage, betrayal, and a profound, aching sadness. How could he accomplish this? To me? To us? I waited until they had left the diner before following them. Marcus dropped Vanessa and Lily off at a little house on the other side of town and drove to work, as if everything was okay. I sat outside the house for hours trying to decide what to do. Finally, I gathered the bravery to knock on the door. Vanessa responded, her look changing from astonishment to suspicion when she noticed me. "Can I help you?" she said, her voice wary. I took a deep breath. "I'm Marcus's wife," I explained. My voice quivered. Vanessa's eyes widened. For a minute, neither of us spoke. Then she stood aside, gesturing for me to enter. The house looked comfortable with portraits of Vanessa, Lily, and, to my horror, Marcus. There were photos of them at the park, on vacation, and at what appeared to be a birthday party. It was like entering an alternate dimension in which Marcus lived a completely different life. Vanessa offered me a cup of coffee, and we sat at the kitchen table. "How long have you known Marcus?" I inquired, my tone barely above a whisper. Vanessa hesitated before sighing. 5 years, she answered. "We met at work. He informed me that he was divorced." I felt as if the ground had been pulled out from beneath me. 5 years? That meant Marcus had been leading a double life for nearly half of our marriage. "What about Lily?" I inquired, my voice breaking. Vanessa gazed down at her hands. "She's his daughter," she replied gently. "He's been a part of her life since the day she was born." I wasn't sure what to say. My mind was racing as I tried to absorb what I had just learned. Marcus wasn't simply having an affair. He had an entire other family. He had been keeping his family from me for years. As I sat at Vanessa's kitchen table, my head was filled with questions. "Marcus, how had you kept this a secret for so long? How hadn't I noticed?" But before I could ask any further questions, Vanessa spoke again. "There's something else you should know," she replied, her tone cautious. She stood up and exited the room, returning moments later with a folder. Inside were legal documents such as custody agreements, child support payments, and even a will. My hand shook as I paged through them. According to the papers, Marcus had been financially supporting Vanessa and Lily for several years. He had even designated Lily as his beneficiary in the event of his death. "He told me you knew," Vanessa said, her voice filled with shame. "He said you two had an arrangement, that you were okay with it as long as he didn't bring it up around you." I felt a flash of rage. "That's a lie," I replied, my voice quivering. "I had no idea any of this was happening." Vanessa appeared shocked. "I'm very sorry," she said. "I had no idea he was lying to both of us." We sat in silence for a long time, digesting the severity of Marcus's betrayal. Vanessa then said something that stopped me cold. "There's something else," she explained. "Marcus has been discussing leaving you. He stated that he wants to be with me and Lily full-time." I felt like I had been hit in the stomach. Marcus wasn't only hiding a secret family. He intended to leave me for them. I wasn't sure what to do. Part of me wanted to face him, shout and cry for answers. But another part of me understood I had to be clever about this. If Marcus could lie to me for years, what else could he do? I chose to acquire proof. Over the next 3 weeks, I chronicled everything. Texts, images, and bank records. I even hired a private investigator to look further into Marcus's secret life. What I discovered was surprising. Marcus was not only helping Vanessa and Lily, but he was also transferring funds from our joint accounts into a hidden savings account in Vanessa's name. But the biggest surprise occurred when the investigator discovered something I had never imagined. Marcus had another child, a son, living in a distant state with another woman. Turns out that Vanessa and Lily weren't his only secret family. Armed with all of the information, I decided to confront Marcus. I waited until he returned home from work one evening, his normal cheerful ignorance of the impending storm. I seated him down at the kitchen table with the packet of documents in front of him. "What's this?" he inquired, his tone light but his gaze watchful. "Open it," I murmured, my voice firm despite the rage building inside me. He stopped before flipping through the papers. His face turned pale when he understood what he was staring at. "Where did you get this?" he questioned, his voice raised. "I hired a private investigator," I said, "and I spoke to Vanessa. Marcus, I know everything. About her, about Lily, regarding your son in another state. I know you've been stealing money from us. I know everything." Marcus looked at me, his expression a mix of shock and dread. For a little while he said nothing. Then he began to explain, or rather make excuses. "It's not what you think," he replied. "I never intended to hurt you. I got in over my head and I had no idea how to get out." "You didn't know how to get out?" I repeated, my voice quivering with rage. "You have been lying to me for years, Marcus. You've been living a double, no, triple life and didn't think it would damage me?" He tried to apologize and beg for forgiveness, but I wasn't having it. "You don't get to apologize," I responded. "You can't act like a victim here. You made your decisions, and now you have to deal with the consequences." I informed him that I filed for divorce and that I intended to take everything he had. He tried to reason and persuade me to give him another chance, but I was done. I grabbed a bag and departed that night, staying with a friend while I planned my future actions. The following few weeks were a blur of legal battles and mental misery. Marcus fought me every step of the way, but the evidence proved overwhelming. In the end, I received the property, the majority of our savings, and complete custody of our children. Marcus was ordered to pay child support and alimony, but I knew it wouldn't be enough to compensate for what he had done. The divorce was finalized 6 months later, but the emotional scars took far longer to heal. Marcus attempted to stay in touch, stating that he wanted to be a part of our children's life, but I couldn't trust him. How could I, after all he had done? I set stringent boundaries, only allowing him supervised visits. Vanessa contacted me several times, apologizing for her role in the issue. She admitted that she had no idea Marcus was married when they first met, and by the time she found out, she was already too deep. I didn't really blame her. Marcus lied to both of us. I focused on reconstructing my life. I returned to school and earned a degree in counseling so that I might help others in similar situations. It was therapeutic in a way, transforming my misery into something positive. My children were my rock throughout it all, and their tenacity and love gave me the fortitude to keep going. It's been 5 years since that day in the grocery store, and while the anguish hasn't totally subsided, it's become more manageable. I've learned to trust again, both in myself and in others. I've even started dating, but I'm taking things slowly. Marcus, on the other hand, has not done as well. His lies caught up with him, and he not only lost me, but also Vanessa and his other family members. He's now alone, and while I feel terrible for him, I know it's a bed he made for himself. If there's one thing I've learned from this, it's that you have no control over what other people do, but you can control how you respond. I opted to turn my anguish into strength, and by doing so, I discovered a new sense of purpose. This event taught me that life is unpredictable, and even those you trust the most can betray in ways you never expected. But it also demonstrated how strong I am, how resilient we can all be when confronted with adversity. If you've ever been through something similar, please share your experience in the comments. How did you manage it? Now on to the next story. Story 8. My dog saved my life when a stalker broke into my house. My sister-in-law now refuses to let him near my niece, claiming he's dangerous as he snapped. This is kind of a complicated story, but I'll just get into it. I used to be in this controlling, kind of abusive relationship. When I finally broke it off a year ago, my ex started showing up trying to get me to take him back. Eventually, it developed into full-on stalking. He would show up at my work and took to just waiting outside of it after he was banned, leave notes on my car when I was at the grocery store, leave all kinds of flowers outside my house, and then stick angry notes on my door after he saw me throw them in the trash, and wrote me all kinds of weird, obsessive emails and letters. I've had to change my phone number 3 times. The behavior escalated over time and got scarier, more threatening. In one instance, he started a small fire in my driveway, but the police couldn't get enough evidence connecting him to it. It was after that instance that I put cameras in my yard. I previously only had them pointing at my doors. I was horrified to learn that the police couldn't do about any of this until my stalker actually was caught doing something illegal, like breaking into my house, at which point I might already be dead. I decided I wasn't spending the rest of my life waiting for the other shoe to drop. So I got a handgun and a concealed carry permit, took some self-defense courses, and started doing strength training. I also looked into getting an attack dog, but after all the money I'd sunk into my other methods of protection, they were prohibitively expensive. So, I went to my local animal shelter and got the scariest, meanest-looking dog I could find. This is where Thor comes in. He's a 100 pounds American bulldog. Looks like he'd rip your throat out on sight, but is basically a gigantic teddy bear. He loves every person he's ever met, is incredibly sweet and gentle with my 4-year-old niece, enjoys other animals, and even loves the mailman. I just kind of accepted that he probably wouldn't do anything to protect me from my stalker, but it didn't matter that much because having such a huge dog made me so much more confident. I brought Thor everywhere I could and was working on getting him trained enough to be an emotional support animal so I could bring him inside places with me. I absolutely would not do this until he was trained well enough to not disrupt a regular service dog. Last month, I woke up in the middle of the night to Thor whining. I was groggy and thought he had to go to the bathroom, so I got out of bed and opened the door. At that point, my house alarm went off, and pretty soon after that, I was face to face with my stalker. I started screaming and went to run for my gun. Before I could do anything, though, Thor ran across the room in full attack mode. The memory is really blurry for me, but there was blood all over my living room, and I remember my stalker was eventually able to escape, at which point Thor chased him outside and then came back to me. When the police showed up, they said Thor was a hero who'd probably saved my life. I don't want to list what they found in my stalker's car after they caught him, and I'm shaking a little as I type this, but I'm sure he was going to bring me somewhere and kill me. It looks like he's going to prison for a long time, though, so my nightmare is over. Pretty much everyone in my life thinks Thor is a hero, except my sister-in-law. She and my brother have a 4-year-old, the one I mentioned above, and she says she doesn't want Thor around her child anymore. She says since Thor has snapped in the past, he could do it again, so he's not safe to have around a kid. We used to see each other a few times a week before she decided Thor was dangerous. The way she words this makes me really angry because Thor didn't snap. He saw a stranger break into his home, heard his owner scream in terror, and reacted to defend me, himself, and his house. Nothing about that screams dangerous around children to me unless my niece is also going to break into my house and threaten me. This is also a very emotional issue for me because Thor isn't just a dog to me. He's my safe place, my hero, the one who protected me and kept me safe when no one else could. I've also gotten increasingly anxious since this happened, and I can't go anywhere without Thor. I barely leave my house, pay to pick up my groceries from the store instead of going in because I know Thor isn't allowed inside, and all my friends know that if Thor isn't welcome in their house, I'm not coming either, although they're perfectly welcome to come hang out at my house instead. I am really going through it and am working with a therapist to overcome this. Luckily, my office is still fully remote, but I need to be able to go back to work once we're in person again. But I really need my brother and sister-in-law's support. I think my sister-in-law thinks I'm just pouting, and that's why I won't just leave the dog home and come over without him. I don't know how to explain to them that the fear hasn't stopped just because my stalker is in jail. It's actually a lot worse than it was before. I've already suggested they come over and I create Thor, but that wasn't good enough for her. What can I do to make her understand the situation better? TLDR. My dog took down my stalker after he broke into my house. Now I have severe anxiety and am too afraid to be without him. But my sister-in-law thinks he's unsafe around my 4-year-old niece. I don't know how to make them understand that I really am too afraid to go anywhere without him and not just trying to win an argument. Now for some comments. Comment 1. Most of the people that replied have given you excellent advice. Mine is to get you to see that you won. As I read your post, I realized that you have no idea how smart and strong you are. You were threatened and took action. You got a gun permit, training, cameras, an alarm system, a dog, and all the things that I usually have to talk people into for years. I provided a service to victims of stalkers. I would first inform them of their legal rights, tell them their options, help them with filing reports, do a deep background on the stalker, inspect the home for security, advise them on a proper alarm system and changes, find a contractor, help them select a handgun and training, train them what to do at home, at work, on the street, help find a dog therapist, and many other things. Over the years, I developed a thorough understanding of the mind of stalkers and how to deal with them. I know how helpless you feel when the law says you have to be beaten or killed before they can do anything. Today, most major cities have a support group for people that are harassed by stalkers. Sometimes I would even have a discussion with the stalker, but that only worked 10% of the time. Stalkers know the law, aren't afraid of much, and are driven by things most people don't understand. I could list the many things we did, including staking out the house and catching them. I was licensed and permitted in everything. I only share this background so that you know that I have more experience at this than most people. The reason I'm replying to your post is to tell you that you did things on your own that I had to push clients to do because they either were paralyzed with fear, lived in denial, or were passive and had to be pushed into protecting themselves. Some even wanted to move away. Never run from a stalker, and you didn't. In 15 years, I never had one client that took the initiative like you have. You did almost everything right, and you should be proud of your efforts and know that you are strong enough to deal with this and anything else life throws at you. You won. Don't let this piece of trash know that he caused you pain. These sick people get pleasure from your fear. So, as you go forward, don't let your sister-in-law get to you. She has no idea what you went through, and her fear of your dog is baseless. You are really lucky and have one heck of a dog. He saved your life and deserves a great partner like you. Please don't underestimate yourself. I never had one client as strong and smart as you. You should be talking to victims and sharing your story of courage and survival. You would provide a service to victims that think no one understands their constant fear. If you did that, you would be giving yourself therapy. Therapy isn't much more than sharing your fears with someone that understands, and you truly do. Comment 2. Because there have been plenty of helpful comments already regarding what to do with Thor, great name, and your sister-in-law, I just want to make sure you're also taking care of yourself. What you've been through is horribly traumatic that few people in the world have experienced. I know you've gone to great lengths to protect yourself with classes and the like, but now that the imminent physical threat is taken care of, it's time to take off the emotional scars your stalker has inflicted on you. Please seek out some trauma therapy. You deserve to be able to live without the constant cloud of fear hanging over you. Please seek professional therapy. You'll thank yourself so much for being kind enough to take care of your mental health. Best of luck to you and lots of pets for your perfect doggy. Reply to comment 2. Echoing this, OP, depending on where you live, you may be eligible for trauma therapy paid by the county in which the judicial process occurred. Do they have a victim advocate's office? If not, I recommend looking up the National Association of Crime Victims' Compensation Boards. They can help you figure out what you are eligible for as a victim. I can tell you from experience as a victim of a crime that this service has been invaluable and allowed me to receive free weekly trauma therapy for almost a year now, virtual since COVID. It also might help you find ways to talk to your brother and sister-in-law. Your support system is more important than ever, but sometimes people truly don't understand the brain alteration of trauma can cause, and you might not have the ability to describe it in a way they can understand right now. A therapist can help coach you on how to talk to them so that you can hopefully have time with your family and niece and your dog also. And I hate to add this depressing advice, but talk to the victim advocate or sign up for the victim notification via the prison system so you aren't taken unawares by an early sentencing release. In the case I'm a victim in, the person was sentenced to 6 years but will probably be out in less than 3. Restraining orders do not always roll over from before, so make sure you have a new one set in place when the sociopath gets out on parole. So thankful Thor was there to keep you alive. Best wishes on healing. Comment 3. I'm really sorry that this all happened to you. I'm glad that both you and your pup are all right. You might want to look into a box muzzle. I'm not recommending it because Thor did anything wrong, but it might make the other person feel more comfortable. It's a muzzle that can be worn comfortably. Your pup can open its mouth, have his tongue hang out, whatever. I got one when introducing my 100-pound dog to a 2-pound kitten. It's a safety blanket. You can have them together without any fear. That said, it hurts to get hit with a cage. My lovely dumb dog got excited while wearing it, tried to lick me, and ran into my face with it on. I wish you luck with everything. Edit. Thank you to whoever awarded me the silver. That was really kind of you. I had a large, aggressive breed of dog that was super friendly and loving. He crossed over the Rainbow Bridge last year. I understand the struggle of having an intimidating dog and the judgments that can go along with it. I especially want aggressive breeds to get all the love and attention they deserve. OP sounds like they're doing a fantastic job. No one should have to pick between a person and a partner wanting what is best for their child or their amazing dog, especially one that saved their life. Reply to comment 3. This is probably the best advice, as OP feels absolutely safe with the dog. The parents of the 4-year-old are absolutely responsible for ensuring their child's safety. I liken this to keeping young children out of the kitchen when cooking things on the stove. A pot of spaghetti is not evil, it's not malicious, and it's absolutely safe when used properly. But if a kid pulls it over on themselves, it's going to be tragic. I look at a dog, which is capable of sending a full-grown man to the hospital, to be as dangerous as that pot of spaghetti. A few ounces of prevention and inconvenience is absolutely worth everyone's peace of mind. You can even get the dog to love the box muzzle. 2. Make it so that he gets to play a treat game when he puts it on, and before long, that dog will literally be bringing the muzzle to you whenever he hears the brother's car pull up. Comment 4. If it weren't for Thor, your stalker probably wouldn't be carted off to prison. Thor helped provide DNA that pinpoints stalkers to the scene. Best move on your part. That's such great news, and I'm glad things will be better for you. Your sister-in-law is being ridiculous. A home invasion is something a dog notices, that is why he attacked. You were scared and running, and the dog knew the strange guy was the problem, so he took care of it. Your sister doesn't understand dogs, and I think is speaking from ignorance. I'm sorry this has happened to you, but parents will be parents. I just keep them separate from here on out to keep the peace. Reply to comment 4. Thor sounds very smart and simply amazing. On one hand, I understand the concern of a child around any dog, But Thor didn't snap. He did what OP had hoped he would do and defended his mama from a man who broke into her house. I don't understand why keeping him crated is unacceptable to her. They need to have a talk because the sister-in-law seems to think OP is pouting. But she just went through severe trauma and relies on him for her anxiety. OP should also get counseling for PTSD, though, because realistically, she can't bring him with her everywhere for the rest of her life. Unfortunately, some businesses don't allow emotional support animals, particularly a large bully breed. Now on to the next story. Story 9. I became the antagonist in my stepsister's drama after refusing to cut my brothers out of my life, as she had demanded on her birthday. Out of my 4 siblings, I, 18F, am the youngest. Chris, 25 million, John, 27 million, and Michael, 28 million, are my 3 older brothers. My father, 53 million, and my brothers have been quite protective of me ever since our mother died when I was 8 years old. Among other things, I had movie nights with my brothers and father-daughter date nights with my dad. I believe they did that to ensure I didn't feel alone. My father married Melissa, 45F, last year. She moved in with us along with her 18T+ daughter, Ashley. I always felt that I was disliked by Ashley. She would converse with my brothers and father but never with me. She would give me a brusque response and then turn away if I attempted to speak with her. After a few weeks of unsuccessfully attempting to get along with her, I gave up. Even though I never understood why or whether I had done something to her, it was sufficient that we treated each other with civility. My brothers had conflicting feelings about her as well. She insisted on attending our movie nights, but even if none of us were interested, she would always insist on seeing a film she enjoyed. Additionally, she persisted in attempting to cuddle with my brothers, which made them uneasy and strange as they didn't know her well. Because he didn't enjoy how touchy she was with him, Chris actually told her to stop. I recently turned 18. It was low-key and enjoyable, and I got some amazing presents. Ashley approached me the following day and complained that it was unjust because my brother's birthday presents to me were superior to those they gave her in June of last year. Since my brothers didn't really know her, they each gave her a $200 gift card to a different store so she could purchase the things she loved. To be polite, they handed her presents. My brothers sent me a personalized planner with quotes and messages on every page, a signed copy of a whole book series I've been infatuated with, and a personalized perfume. Since they don't truly know her, I think it's reasonable that they give my gifts more thought. Ashley broke down in tears as she said I always get everything and she gets nothing. Then she insisted that I quit spending time with my brothers, saying that they would give her more attention if I did. She also asked me to inform them that since she was now their sister, they should treat her the same way they treated me. I assured her that I wouldn't make my brothers do anything against their will. She demanded that I call my brothers at that very moment to inform them that I would be spending less time with them and that they were to get her better presents. I declined. She must have told her friends and cousins, since I've been receiving letters from them accusing me of being a pampered, self-centered child. I'm questioning myself now. Update 1. Your recommendations and counsel are much valued. In case you missed it, I alerted my father and brothers about Ashley's actions. I did mention this in the comments. According to my father, they would speak with Ashley after he spoke with Melissa. We all spoke the following day. Ashley didn't deny anything, despite what we believed at this point. She sounded like a broken record as she simply reiterated everything she had told me. Because my boys and I were so close, my dad acknowledged that she might feel alienated, but he said it was inappropriate for her to harass me through her friends and family and demand that I spend less time with them. Melissa began to express regret for Ashley's actions. Ashley was simply struggling with the changes in her life, so she stated, she hoped we could all forgive her, even though she knew it was wrong. They did initially want a positive relationship with her, Michael said, but she could forget it if this was how she was going to treat me. My brothers also talked about how her being so touchy with them made them feel uneasy. When my father proposed therapy, Ashley screamed and refused. I believe my father had had enough at this point. He threatened to evict her from his home unless she resolved her problems and went to therapy. We all stopped talking after that. My dad responded in the affirmative when Melissa inquired if he was serious. He claimed to love her and care about Ashley, but he wouldn't tolerate bullying of his daughter in his own home. Ashley had a surprised expression. This must have been quite upsetting to her, because she was going to attend a nearby college and stay at home to save money on rent. She began accusing me, approaching me, and even attempting to seize me. My brothers all stepped in between us right away. John told her coolly that even if her father was attempting to be nice, he would not act in that way. He went on to say that he would put her in jail before she could blink if she touched me. As an attorney, John made it apparent that this was no mere threat. Ashley took a step back and shut the door behind her as she made her way to her room. Ashley attended therapy the following day. At least she is leaving, even though I'm not sure if Melissa coerced her or if she didn't want to be expelled. I don't mind at all that she has been ignoring us for the past few days. Ashley began playing the sympathy card by texting my brothers the day she began therapy. They all obstructed her. I'm doing fine personally. Everyone kind of forgot that I'm leaving for college in a few days because of this whole situation. My father and brothers are currently behaving irrationally and like mother hens. LOL. Update 2. To put things in perspective, I am the youngest of 4 siblings, 18F. Chris, 25 million, John, 27 million, and Michael, 28 million, are my 3 brothers. When I was 8 years old, our mother died. My dad, 53 million, married Melissa, 45F, last year, and she moved in with her daughter Ashley, 18F, from a previous marriage. I wrote about Ashley hysterically making me quit spending time with my brothers because she wanted them to give her more attention, bar a month ago. She constantly accused me of keeping her from connecting with my brothers and blamed me for everything. We all took a seat and spoke. I went to college and Ashley went to treatment. However, I am aware that she still hates me. The present problem. I turned 18 a little more than a month ago. I received a pair of diamond earrings from my maternal grandparents as a family treasure. My mother used to own them, but she was unable to give them to me, so my grandma kept them until I became 18. In my room, I store them in a closed drawer. Melissa and Ashley attended a wedding yesterday. Melissa posted on Facebook, so I knew, until I noticed Ashley wearing a pair of earrings that I recognized from one of her articles. I didn't give it much thought. I knew right away that those were my earrings. Even though I know it's wrong to make accusations without evidence, I notified my father and brothers over the phone before leaving for home. Melissa didn't trust me when I contacted her to explain the problem because Ashley had informed her that she had borrowed the earrings from a friend. Upon arriving home, I discovered that the earrings were gone and the drawer had been broken. We looked at the hallway security camera I had one place due to past incidents, and it captured Ashley entering my room and exiting a short while later. I was in a panic. Ashley received a call from my dad demanding that she return my earrings. At first she denied everything, but when he revealed that we had video footage, she defended herself by claiming that I wasn't using them and that she had simply borrowed them. My dad was then barred by her. Melissa was also not picking up her phone. I was considering going to the wedding right away when my brothers, who were really tired of Ashley, proposed that we go to the police station and report her for stealing. At first I was hesitant, but then I recalled that Ashley had stolen these earrings without my consent, which my mother had left for me. We displayed the security film, filed a report, and went to the station. Ashley was brought to the police station this morning to be questioned. Melissa and she remain at the station. Ashley's family has been calling and texting me to accuse me of being dramatic and embarrassing their family, because a lot of the wedding guests witnessed the police officers. Update 3. I had no intention of updating after my initial post was locked, but I got a ton of messages requesting one and advising me to update my profile here. Here it is. If you're still reading this, please be prepared for a lengthy read because a lot happened. Let me start by answering the question that has been on everyone's mind. I did receive my earrings back. Their current location is far safer. Second, my brother handled most of the legal technicalities, so I am not fully aware of them, but these are the specifics. The price of the earrings is high. Ashley was in a lot of trouble because my grandparents apparently got them certified and had all the paperwork. Ashley was kicking and screaming the entire time, according to my father who was at the station. She initially insisted that she had borrowed the earrings from a friend, but the police later showed her the video proof. Furthermore, she was unable to identify the acquaintance from whom she allegedly stole them. To exacerbate the situation, she was carrying the earrings in a customized, engraved box. As my father related, Ashley reportedly attempted to flee while the authorities were speaking to her and even bit the officer who attempted to stop her. She was consequently forced to stay the night in the holding cell at the station until she made amends. Admittedly, I found this to be quite entertaining. Yes, it's wrong to make fun of other people's poor luck, but I'm just a human. My dad's wife, Melissa, expressed her deep disappointment in all of us. She acknowledged that Ashley's actions were in a gray area, but she claimed we could have waited for her to return and avoided making things more serious. She halted the call and stopped answering her phone that evening when my oldest brother asked her why she didn't want the situation to get out of hand. Despite her inability to respond, she insisted that we make considerations for family. Melissa went on to say that diamonds should be worn rather than kept in a drawer, and that Ashley looked lovely in the earrings. This makes me think that she was aware Ashley had stolen my earrings from the beginning and just allowed it to happen. Unfortunately, I can't demonstrate this. Melissa and my dad are divorcing. I hope this is resolved quickly because I don't think she's receiving much since they have a prenuptial agreement. Ashley, on the other hand, has been sending me nasty messages, just her standard fare. Although I don't read the messages, I haven't blocked her since we all think she would try to get in touch with us again. We want to use this as proof for a restraining order against her. They have left the house as of right now. Melissa is still pleading with my dad to change his mind. Dad stated that his children must always come first and that he cannot allow a thief to live in his home. He believes that Ashley poses a threat to my brothers and me. My brothers and I have blocked Melissa after she attempted to get in touch with us. I genuinely hope that this whole situation is ending because it has turned into quite a spectacle. I hope this is my final post on this site. I sincerely appreciate all of the people who have messaged and left comments inquiring about my well-being. Thank you so much for all of the best wishes and advice. I really appreciate it. Edit. I got several replies inquiring as to whether Ashley was unaware that the hallway was being filmed. It's possible that I never informed her outright, "Hey, there's a security camera in here." But since they are visible and not concealed, I failed to see how anyone could confuse them for anything else. Some also questioned why the security camera was installed in the first place. Our neighborhood was the scene of several crimes a few years ago. I was frequently by myself at home at this time, from the moment I got home from school until my dad returned home from work. The house was equipped with security cameras since my father and brothers were too cautious. They were never removed. Many Reddit users messaged me after my first post warning me to exercise caution since Ashley might try to take anything. They were correct, though, so I made sure to confirm that the cameras were operational now. Now on to the next story. Story 10. I bankrupted myself to support my sister's crisis, but later on, I found out she was living luxury than me. Hi guys, this is me, just a regular girl in her mid-20s who's a victim of her own sister's lies and manipulations. My sister ruined my entire life. Our lives are heavily dependent on the choices we make when we are young. To get a good education, you require money, and that money was all taken by her for parties. Basically, my sister got married to a guy despite everyone's disapproval, and this caused our family to go no contact with her. I was the only one still in contact with. She had 2 kids, and just a couple of years after they were born, her husband left her. She was living abroad all alone and handling everything all by herself, and it was difficult. She did have a job, but it wasn't enough. Every now and then I used to send her some money, but again, I was a student myself, I didn't have access to a lot of money. Misfortune seemed to hover on her. First, her ex-husband died. Then her baby got diagnosed with stage 1 cancer. I was horrified on hearing that about my nephew and wanted to rush there to help her out. But she told me not to come as it would only increase her expenses. She told me that she would share all the details with me, but she needed some money. I sent her my entire savings, but it wasn't enough for her. This went on for around a year, and I had to choose between my education and her medical expenses. I chose her thinking that my education can wait. I wanted my nephew to live a healthy life, I wanted my sister to be happy. So I used to work out jobs and send her money every month. Fast forward a few years and my sister seemed to have her life in order with her son being fully recovered. She had a good job, a decent house, and a second-hand car. I was proud of her, thinking that all the money I sent her had been put to good use. I couldn't send a lot, but tried to do as much as possible. With quite a good amount of experience from working all this time, I got hired at an MNC as a secretary. It wasn't much, but it was something. I was just happy to be able to provide for my sister. She was also working to give her kids a good life. But something seemed off when she would refuse to video call me, saying that her internet was always slow or that she was busy with work. It was strange because she would always call me when she needed money. She also stopped updating me about my nephew's health, which was odd because I was always worried about him. With his disease, there was always a risk and I wanted to be on board with everything. I decided to surprise them on my nephew's birthday and fly there. I reached the address and I was shocked to find a luxurious villa with a sprawling garden and a fancy car parked in the driveway. I was surprised, to say the least, as this was not the kind of house I expected my sister to live in. When she opened the door, she was dressed in designer clothes and her hair and makeup were done perfectly. I was shocked, wondering where all this money came from. Her expression said that she was equally shocked to see me as well. She tried to hold me at the door, but I stepped inside and saw my nephew and niece playing with expensive toys and gadgets. I was happy to see them healthy and happy, but I couldn't help but wonder how my sister had managed to afford all of this while I was living in poverty to send money. When I asked her about it, she hesitated and then admitted that she had inherited a lot of money from her husband's family after his death. I was confused as I had no idea that her husband's family had that kind of wealth. And if that were the case, why was I asked to pay for all this time? My nephew and niece were very happy to see me, and I didn't want to create a mess in front of them. As I spent more time with them, I began to notice some strange things. She had no pictures of her husband or his family in the house. She also had no medical bills or records for my nephew's cancer treatment, which seemed odd. When I asked her about it, she became defensive and refused to answer any of my questions. I decided to go through her papers and documents. Of course, she got super defensive. And as I threatened to go to the hospital to inquire or directly go to my nephew's school, for they must be aware of his physical condition, she couldn't help but accept that he was never sick at all. She had been lying to me all these years, taking advantage of my love and kindness. I was devastated and angry. I felt like I had been used and betrayed. I decided to confront her, but she denied everything and tried to manipulate me into believing her lies. I couldn't take it anymore. A sense of anger and betrayal washed over me. How could my sister deceive me like this? How could she live a life of luxury while I struggled to make ends meet and support her family? It was clear that my sister was the villain in this story. As I thought more about it, I realized that my sister had been manipulating me all along. She had always been the favorite child in our family and had grown up entitled and selfish. Even after she made poor choices and was disowned by our family, I had still been there for her, supporting her financially and emotionally. And all the while, she had been living a life of extravagance and deceit. I decided that enough was enough. I couldn't just sit back and let her get away with this. I began to do some research and discovered that she had been lying to me about her finances, her job, and even her health. She had been living off of my money and lying to me about it the entire time. My sister was aware that I wouldn't let it go this easily. So before I could do anything, she started spewing her lies. She immediately started to create problems for me. She called our parents and told them that I was spreading lies about her and that I was just jealous of her success. She even went as far as to report me to the immigration authorities, claiming that I had overstayed my visa in her country. I was shocked and hurt by her actions. How could she do this to me after everything I had done for her and her children? I knew I had to act fast, so I contacted a lawyer and explained the situation to him. He advised me to gather all the evidence I had about the money I had sent to my sister over the years and the conversations we had had about her financial situation. He also told me to document all the threats and harassment I was receiving from my sister. Armed with this evidence, I decided to confront my sister and tell her that I had proof of all the lies she had been telling me and everyone else. At first, She denied everything and accused me of making it all up. But when I presented her with the evidence, she broke down and confessed to everything. She apologized for everything and begged for my forgiveness, but it was too late. I had had enough of her lies and manipulations. I decided to press charges against her for fraud and theft. I also told her that I would not drop the charges unless she repaid every penny she had taken from me. I contacted immigration services and reported her for fraud. I provided them with all the evidence I had gathered, including bank statements and emails. Within a few weeks, my sister was arrested and charged with fraud. My sister was devastated by my decision, but I knew it was the right thing to do. I couldn't let her get away with what she had done. In the end, she was forced to repay me all the money she had taken from me, and she was also sentenced to community service for her actions. It was a harsh move, but I knew that it was the only way to get justice. I had been manipulated and taken advantage of for years, and I couldn't just let her get away with it. My sister's life was turned upside down, and she was forced to return to her home country after the period of her community service was over. Update 1. So my sister is furious and is trying her best to turn people against me. Despite my sister's attempts to twist the truth and make me look like the villain, I know deep down that I have done the right thing. I had spent years sacrificing my own education and financial stability to support her and her children, only to find out that she had been lying to me the entire time. It was a bitter pill to swallow, but I refused to let her manipulate me any longer. I started to distance myself from her and her toxic behavior. I refused to engage in any more arguments or drama, and instead focused on rebuilding my own life. I worked hard at my job and saved up enough money to move into my apartment. I also started to make new friends and even began dating someone. Update 2. So my sister wasn't done causing trouble. She spread rumors about me to our extended family and friends, trying to make me out to be the bad guy. She even went as far as to accuse me of stealing from her, which was a complete lie. I knew that she was just trying to deflect attention away from her misdeeds. Despite all of this, I refused to stoop to her level. I remained calm and collected, and made sure to keep all of our interactions civil. I knew that I couldn't control her behavior, but I could control my own, and that was enough for me. Update 3. I have completely cut off contact with my sis. It was a painful and difficult experience, but I learned a lot from it. I learned that sometimes the people we trust the most can also hurt us the most. But I also learned that justice can be served if we dare to stand up for ourselves and fight for what is right. And most importantly, I learned that forgiveness is not always necessary. Sometimes it's okay to cut toxic people out of our lives and move on. I realized that I had to move on from this toxic relationship. It was clear that my sister was never going to change and I couldn't keep enabling her behavior. It was time for me to focus on my own life and my own happiness. Thank you for being here till the end, Redditors. Now on to the next story. Story 11. Father who publicly shamed me and refused to accept that he has failed as a parent, now cries because I left him. English is not my first language, so please ignore any mistakes I may make. When I was a child, my parents loved me the most. I was planned, expected, and cherished. We didn't have much money and they worked a lot, but they tried their best to show their love. This never changed with my mom. Obviously, she's not perfect, but she was always looking for ways to become a better person, to express love and to learn from her mistakes. Unfortunately, the same cannot be said for my dad. Everything changed when I was 12 years old. We couldn't have a normal conversation without arguing, because we never agreed on anything. When I started to disagree with him, he began to reveal his worst side. He constantly insisted that I needed to be perfect. Perfect grades and perfect behavior. The only grade accepted was an A+. Anything less and he would berate me, calling me stupid, dumb, lazy, and saying I would never amount to anything. But even if I did score an A+, he would claim I had only done the bare minimum and didn't deserve any praise. During that time, I was bullied relentlessly at school because I'm a lesbian. I had no friends and people would always call me names, throw food at me and mock my appearance. I felt unloved at both school and home, with no one by my side. I remember showing symptoms of depression since I was 9, and they only worsened as the years went by. When I was 14, I made some friends and they invited me to a show. I was thrilled and went straight to my dad to ask for permission. His response was, "Since when do you have friends? Since when does anyone like you?" He loved to say that no one liked me and that I was unpleasant, insinuating it was my fault for being alone. One day he discovered I hadn't done my homework, so he printed a sheet saying so, wrote "shame" on it with markers, and hung it on my bedroom door. He even threatened to invite his friends over to see the paper and embarrass me further, saying that I should be as embarrassed as he was having me as his daughter. As a teenager, I did everything to get his attention, breaking curfews, picking fights with him, lying and waiting for him to find out. I maintained good grades and tried to be the ideal daughter, but when I was on my best behavior, he wouldn't even acknowledge me. When I turned 20, I met my girlfriend and we decided to live together. I left my parents' house and vowed never to speak to him again. My father had never really cared about my sexuality. He had despised me long before that. He never attempted to reach out to me, but when I decided to cut contact, he told everyone that was ungrateful that I hated him and that he was a poor, abandoned father. However, no one believed him, not even my mom, sister, or his own mother and sisters. Now, 4 years later, I'm happily married and pursuing my second degree. However, my mom has come forward saying that he's always crying and expressing how much he misses me. I told her that I'm open to talking to him, but only if he's willing to acknowledge his mistakes and apologize. Unfortunately, he told her that he did nothing wrong. I want to emphasize that I've been in therapy since I was 12 and it's the only thing that prevented me from ending my life. And now, just as I'm finally happy, this situation arises. Comments where Op has replied, "Your mother enabled him, that's the worst part." OP. I think I've spent years hating her for that, for making me grow up alone like that, but after a lot of therapy, I've decided to forgive her. She's always trying to grow and apologize for her mistakes, and she knows how much she fails as a parent too. But I'm totally aware of her lack of attitude. Commenter, "Your mom still needs to stop bringing him up." OP, you're right. I tried to have patience BC, she's hurt and he's always trying to make her hate me too. But she can't keep bringing this up to me. He won't change and never will. On giving him a chance. OP. I gave him a lot of chances before, but he always did something to hurt me deeply. I truly believe he learned that from his mom, who's an evil narcissist everyone hates. But now he's another narcissist who blames me for destroying our family. Deep down I want him to be better, to love me, to understand his mistakes, but he just don't want to. Very hard situation. Family therapy? OP. He refuses to accept therapy BC, he always says only crazy people need it. So I think cut contact is the only thing left to do. He just misses his emotional punching bag. OP, I totally agree. He misses having control over me to humiliate and yell when he's pissed. I learned to never cry or show any sign of weakness BC every time he saw I was hurt. He smiled like he's accomplished something he wanted a lot. Kind of sadistic if you think about it. I was truly open to talk, but we will never be family or love each other. It's just too late for that. But at this point, I'm not so sure if I even want to. On how he behaved with others, the controversial part is that he always said I was the perfect daughter to his friends, in a way that shows he did a good job raising me. He never accomplished me when I was accepted in college but told all of his friends I was a smart to people outside. He would seem like the perfect dad who raised the perfect kids, but at home, I was just lazy and stupid who would grow up to be nothing. All my therapists said he's a narcissist, so that's explain a lot. This exchange. Commander, you were a child. You weren't supposed to gain your father's love. He failed as a father. You were allowed to mourn the father you deserve to have. OP. TYSM for your kind words. I've spent all my life thinking it was my duty to deserve love from other people and make them like me, as I tried to do with my dad. But therapy showed me that's not right. Love just happens and we can't force someone to love us. I'm definitely mourning this dad that never existed, and hope one day I'll be free from that pain. Mini update. September 30th, 2023, 2 days later. I've talked to my mom to stop bring him up to our conversations and I think she finally understand. It takes me forever to understand that he is accountable for his actions BC. He gaslight me saying that he never did anything like that and I invented all of this to make him look bad to other people. I've spent all my life thinking I was crazy until my therapist says I'm not. And now I'm working on cutting my father off my life completely and forever. Update 1. January 8, 2024, 3.5 months later. First of all, I want to say thank you for all the lovely words you guys sent to me. You don't have any idea of how much this post changed me. I've never opened up about my situation like this to so many people before, and I only did it because I wanted to see your reactions. I've always felt like I was being crazy or exaggerating. My father made me believe that there's nothing wrong with his behavior and that I was just being dramatic. However, seeing how shocked you all were, now I know that I was right to be so hurt. Oh, and I've come out as bisexual, so YD. But now let's get to the update. Recently, I've decided that I wanted to write my dad a letter. I've tried talking to him many times to express how much he hurt me, but every time he cut the conversation saying I was lying and he did nothing to me. Every attempt ended up with a screaming at each other because he refuses to let me finish one sentence without getting mad and telling me to shut up. This hurts me even more because I was silenced all my life. No one ever gave me the chance to say how I feel, and that's why I wrote the letter. In the first post, I mentioned that he wants to talk to me, but I knew that he would do the same thing as before, so I wrote a letter and left it on his desk when he wasn't home. I only visit my mom when he's not home. In that letter, I told him how I felt all my life, shared details about everything he did and how this destroyed me. My mom told me he was devastated after reading it and he wanted to talk to me about it. Of course, I refused. There's nothing more to talk about, and now I'm free from that agony. I feel so much better and relieved that I was able to spend Christmas with my mom and his presence was irrelevant. I've spent so many special days without my mom and sister because I couldn't be in his presence without crying. And now I'm fine and happy. Thank you so much, guys. Happy life for you all. Now on to the next story. Story 12. My stepmother had hidden my late father's will, stealing my inheritance. Now that she came begging for help, I refused. My name is Lily Andrews, and I am 28 years old. My stepmother and younger sister, Rachel, and I live in the house that my late father bequeathed to us. My life has never been easy in our family, but I've always tried to sort things out for the sake of peace. That night, everything changed. It was a large party. My stepmother, Gloria, enjoys arranging these costly occasions, despite her constant complaints about money. Guests packed the home, laughing, drinking, and flaunting their pricey outfits. I remained to myself, standing near the kitchen and avoiding the spotlight, like I normally do. Then something happened. Rachel, my 24-year-old sister, stood in the center of the living room, her voice loud enough to pique everyone's interest. Oh, Lily is here. Look at her, always hiding in the shadows, as if she doesn't belong. Her words sliced into me like a knife. Some attendees laughed uneasily, unsure how to respond. My face flushed with shame, but I did not answer. Rachel understood how much I disliked confrontations. Gloria joined in before I could slip away. Well, maybe Lily doesn't belong here after all, she joked. She doesn't contribute to anything important around here, unlike Rachel. Gloria smiled at the audience, as if her comments were a joke. However, they weren't. I wanted to yell and protect myself, but I remained silent. No one knew I'd been surreptitiously paying Rachel's college tuition for the past 2 years. She wouldn't have had her expensive degree without me, and now she's disrespecting me in front of everyone. After the party, I returned to my room, hoping for some peace and quiet, but Gloria wasn't finished with me yet. She stormed in, her tone rough and cold. You should pack your belongings and leave, Lily. This isn't your house anymore. You're just taking up space. I stood there, frozen. How could she say that? My father left the house to me, but Gloria had always acted as if she owned everything, and Rachel took her lead. For the first time in years, I did not fight or cry. I just looked at her and replied, "Fine, I'll leave." But in my heart, I knew it wasn't over. They were unaware of the sacrifices I had made for them. They had no idea that their remarks were pushing me to the point of no return, and they had no idea what I was going to do next. My mind raced as I packed my things. Every memory of Gloria and Rachel's mistreatment played back in my mind. The sarcastic remarks, the frequent comparisons, and the way they always took me for granted. As I closed up my luggage, I felt the weight of years of quiet sorrow lifted from my shoulders. This house might have been my father's gift to me, but it had become a prison. It was no longer a home. Before leaving, I went into my room and got the folder I'd concealed in the back of my closet. Inside were all of Rachel's college tuition receipts, proving all I had done for her. I was not going to let her forget it. As I approached the front door with my bag, Gloria and Rachel were seated in the living room, sipping wine and joking, as if nothing had occurred. Rachel smirked when they spotted me. "Are you finally leaving? It took you too long," she replied, rolling her eyes. I paused in my tracks to look at her. My voice was calm but forceful. "You know, Rachel, I've always backed you. I funded your tuition when you couldn't afford it. So, this is how you repay me? Mocking me in front of everyone." Her face became pale. "What are you talking about?" Rachel asked. I held up the folder and dropped it on the coffee table. "Here is the proof. Every money I made to keep you in school. You didn't know, did you? Gloria told you that was her, right?" Rachel looked at Gloria, her uncertainty rising to rage. "You told me you were paying for it," she shouted. Gloria stood up and tried to maintain her composure. "That is enough, Lily. Stop trying to create drama and simply leave." I shook my head. "Oh, I am leaving. But from now on, you are on your own. I will not pay another dime for either of you." With that, I walked out the door, leaving them to face the truth. For the first time in years, I felt liberated. The next morning, I moved into a small but comfortable apartment on the opposite side of town. It wasn't a lot, but it was mine. I began focusing on myself for a change, working harder at my career, meeting new people, and caring for my mental health. Meanwhile, things in the old house began to fall apart. Rachel was unable to keep up with her college expenses and had to quit. Gloria attempted to guilt me into assisting them, but I ignored her calls. One day, Rachel texted me, "Lily, I apologize for everything. Could we talk?" I looked at the message for a long time. Part of me wanted to forgive her, but another part of me understood that forgiveness did not imply returning to the way things were. I responded, "We can talk, but I won't let you take advantage of me again." When we eventually met, Rachel burst into tears. She stated that she had been jealous of me for many years. She thought Gloria's approval was all that counted, but she now realizes how toxic Gloria's influence was. "I know I've hurt you, Lily," she admitted, her voice shaking. "I don't expect you to forgive me, but I want to make things right." Rachel began working to repair our friendship. She really apologized and began working to pay her own way through school. For the first time in years, I recognized her as the sister I once cared about. Gloria attempted to persuade Rachel into turning against me again, but Rachel had finally seen her true colors. When Gloria realized she couldn't control us anymore, she fled town, leaving behind the toxic environment she had created. Rachel and I gradually rebuilt our relationship, this time based on respect and honesty. I maintained my distance, focusing on my own ambitions and pleasure, but I knew one thing for certain. I would never allow someone to take advantage of me again. Months passed before things felt normal again. I had settled into my new apartment, concentrating on my profession and creating a life that was not centered on my family's instability. Rachel and I were gradually restoring trust, and I admired her efforts, even if I wasn't ready to fully reintegrate her into my life. Then, one evening, when I was preparing dinner, my phone rang. The number was unfamiliar. "Hello," I responded hesitantly. "Is this Lily Andrews?" A forceful voice said. "Yes. Who is this?" "This is Margaret Gray with Greenfield Law Offices. I'm calling about your late father's estate." My heart skipped a beat. Estate? I thought everything was settled years ago. Margaret hesitated. "Not everything. A situation involving your father's will has lately come to light. Would you be available to meet tomorrow?" I agreed, but I couldn't shake the impression that this call was about more than paperwork. The next day, I sat in Margaret's office, nervous. She handed me a bundle of documents, her face stern. "Lily, your father left a second will, which was only recently discovered." Margaret's comments caused my heart to pound. This will overrides the previous one and includes a significant inheritance. A trust fund intended for you. My thoughts raced. A trust fund? Why didn't this come up before? It was deliberately hidden, Margaret explained. We suspect Gloria hid it by claiming ignorance when the estate was first split. She probably didn't want you to use the money. I felt both angry and relieved. My stepmother had stolen from me, but now I had the opportunity to reclaim what was rightfully mine. Can I access it now? I asked. Yes, Margaret replied with a smile. And I believe you'll find the sum substantial. Your father wanted you to be financially secure. When I saw the numbers, my jaw sank. The trust fund had more than $500,000. The trust fund became widely known, and Gloria soon returned. She arrived unannounced at my apartment, looking untidy and desperate. Lily, we need to talk, she continued, her voice quivering. There's nothing to talk about, Gloria, I said, maintaining a chilly tone. I know about the trust fund, she blurted out. You don't understand how hard things have been for Rachel and me. We need help. I looked at her incredulously. You mean the same Rachel you duped into turning against me? The same Rachel who is finally learning to stand on her own without your toxic influence. Gloria's face flushed hot. I tried to safeguard this family. Everything I did was for Rachel's future. No, I replied firmly. You did everything for yourself, and you know what? I'm finished cleaning up your mess. Later that week, Rachel called me in tears. Gloria is furious with me, she continued. She thinks I betrayed her because I won't ask you for money. What do you want me to do, Rachel? I asked. Nothing, she said, her voice steady. I simply wanted to let you know that I am done with her. I'm moving out and starting a job. I do not want to be like her anymore. Her words astonished me. Rachel had finally accepted responsibility for her life. For the first time, I had a glimmer of optimism for our relationship. With Gloria out of my life, I focused on building a future I could be proud of. I used a portion of the trust fund to start my own business, which I had been dreaming about for years. It wasn't easy, but it was mine, and it gave me a sense of purpose that I hadn't experienced before. Rachel and I stayed in touch and met for coffee or supper on occasion. She was becoming a better version of herself, and I was proud of her. Gloria, I heard, left to another city, leaving behind the damage she caused. I did not feel sorry for her. She had reaped what she sowed. Looking back, I understand that being kicked out of my own home was the finest thing that could have happened to me. It encouraged me to stand up for myself and stop allowing others to take advantage of my goodwill. Now, I live a life full of peace, purpose, and the assurance that I am finally free of my stepmother's toxic control. Rachel is finally learning how to stand on her own 2 feet, and perhaps, just maybe, we'll be able to reconnect as sisters again. Now on to the next story. Story 13. I blocked my aunt and cousin to stop their harassment after my partner and I refused to give up our baby for adoption. I am 8 months along in my pregnancy, 24F, and ever since I told my aunt and cousin, they have been causing me problems. We already love our girl, and neither my spouse nor I intend to part with her. However, my aunt wants me to give my cousin, who has been infertile for the previous 5 years, my child. To put that in perspective, my aunt has been a motherly role to my sister and me since our mother died when we were very little. Throughout our lives, we have maintained a close relationship with our aunt and cousin, and we have made an effort to help my cousin during her infertility issues. Being a Mormon who frequently goes to church and has a strict, narrow-minded perspective on morality, values, and leading a decent life, my aunt is also highly religious. According to her, a child should have a loving, caring mother, a father who provides for them, and a solid religious foundation. My spouse feels that my child will grow up in our home confused and misinformed because we both have full-time jobs and occupations, and she is not a Christian. She claims that the child won't have the right care and identity because of our differing religious beliefs. She worries that in such a setting, our child's welfare won't be given priority and that they might choose a bad, immoral route. She feels that my cousin, who works from home part-time, and her spouse are far more qualified to give my child a caring household that is infused with religion and morals. My cousin and aunt have moved to a new house where they are unaware of the address, and I have blocked them from most forms of communication. To be sure they won't have any influence over my medical choices, my boyfriend and I also got married in a private ceremony. My aunt has been more hostile to me than the other one. She even yelled and argued when she arrived at my former flat one day in an attempt to teach me about the circumstances. She tried to get me to meet her at a cafe close to her church so we could talk about the baby. In a phony nice voice, she persisted even after I told her that we had nothing to talk about and that I was keeping the baby. Eventually, I had to tell the apartment manager and hide in my flat. Took her around 30 minutes to leave. Additionally, my aunt has involved her religious acquaintances who occasionally leave me angry voicemails and texts. In contrast, my cousin has been more reserved around me, but she is dealing with trauma and despair following the preterm labor that resulted in the death of her baby daughter at 30 weeks of pregnancy. She has been participating in motherhood-related forums and commenting frequently on social media. Rumor has it, though, that she has been attempting to conceive through these groups and has been expelled from numerous of them as a result of her actions. She has been accused of pressuring widows and young moms for their children, which has devastated her. My cousin, who sees my baby girl as a replacement for her late child, is reportedly waiting for me to give birth because she is yearning for a child to fix her family. My aunt and cousin both seem to think that I will eventually give up my child because I will become overburdened with parental duties. They believe that I will allow my cousin to be adopted by her husband. My aunt maintains that I may have another child in the future and claims that since we are family, delivering my kid to my cousin shouldn't be as difficult as it may be. She thinks that since I'm still young and intend to go to graduate school after working for a time, this should be a simple decision. It seems like my cousin wants to get back in touch with me like we did before I became pregnant, but I'm not going to talk to her again until after I give birth. This is to assess her emotional state and avoid adding to my pregnant stress. Growing up, I liked her more than my aunt and had always been there for her during her infertility ordeal. However, her recent actions and thoughts have startled me and caused me to worry about my safety. Since we got married in secret this year, my partner and I are organizing a large wedding celebration for next year. I'm not sure if my aunt or cousin would be able to make it or be invited. Aside from people who are close to my aunt and cousin, I currently get a lot of support from both sides of my family. In a year, though, I'm not sure if that support will still be there or how my relationship with my aunt and cousin will change. I have missed a few family occasions that I knew they would be at, but I don't want to permanently miss out on pleasant times and family get-togethers after my baby is born. I'm not sure how things will work out with my aunt and cousin and what problems might result from this circumstance. I was raised in a culture that viewed starting a family and having children as a reward for leading a morally upright life. Even if you were truly having difficulties, you were rarely given judgment-free assistance and were frequently harshly criticized for any perceived flaws. Adoptions were a big part of my church's work, and I think they still are. The birth mothers were frequently young, unmarried, single, or in some other way viewed as ungodly. If birth moms decided to raise their children, the church would intimidate and stress them regarding their future and the fate of their offspring. These infants were frequently given to Mormon couples who were unable to conceive or who wished to look altruistic by saving an innocent child and providing the biological mother with an opportunity to fix her life and lead a fulfilling life. I am now extremely cautious of this practice since it terrifies me. First adoption update. My aunt and cousin, who are also active members, and I spoke with the local church head about the matter. After a lengthy conversation, he first disregarded my worries as family disputes and recommended that I seek counseling. We told him about my cousin's false dreams of adopting my baby, whom she feels would grow up in a decent household, and how she is still struggling with the trauma of the death of her baby. We also informed him of the serious disruption and stress my aunt has been inflicting by feeding into these hopes and nagging me on her behalf. The pastor of the church expressed empathy for me and admitted that he knew what my cousin was going through because she couldn't conceive. He promised to get in touch with my aunt and cousin to find out their version of events. I had another conversation with him today. He was worried that I had stopped talking to my aunt and cousin, especially since I moved away, and claimed they would like to talk to me. I questioned him about what they had said and told him that their actions with regard to my baby had influenced my choice to break off communication. He said that because of her health, my cousin's IVF treatments are unlikely to be successful. Therefore, she had talked to a church therapist and was considering adoption as a way to have a family. Despite what my cousin had been thinking, I made it clear to him that I was not giving up my kid. After stating that he understood, he started to inquire about my personal situation. He then recommended that we seek therapy services and made another attempt to arrange a meeting between us and my aunt and cousin. I informed him that just now I didn't feel comfortable with that. He suggested that I at least give my cousin a call once, and if I was too afraid to do it myself, he would meet with my aunt on Sunday. That was the end of our call. In the upcoming days, I'll update this site with his comments change. Since I don't want to make a completely new post for it, I will also change this one to make updates easier to discover. Edit. I don't like his response, and I don't like the pressure he's giving me to get back in touch with my aunt and cousin. Even though he claims to understand my worries, I think he is being condescending and attempting to pressure us to settle our differences too soon. Since he has religious authority and influence over my aunt and cousin, my boyfriend and I first decided it would be worthwhile to try to get in touch with him. When we speak on the phone again, I'll listen to his response and figure out how to get him to give my concerns more weight. To be clear, I didn't give him any personal information and I don't have any intentions to see my aunt and cousin in person. We do not reside in Utah, and we have already gotten in touch with legal assistance. Update 2. I made the decision to message and unblock my cousin. I informed her that there would be no discussion about my partner and I keeping our child. I made it plain that I don't feel comfortable with her husband, or my aunt being part in my child's life and urged her to get good therapy if she hasn't already. She still hasn't replied. No matter what she says, she will no longer be involved in my child's life, and our connection will not be the same as it was. Update 3. The birth of my kid and other endeavors while I heal and take care of her have kept me quite busy over the past 3 months. I hadn't had a chance to update until now, despite logging on to Reddit a few times. My baby is almost 4 months old, and I am currently 25. Time goes by so quickly. She is doing great and makes us very happy. She is maturing so quickly, and I enjoy taking walks with her. I have begun my job search and intend to return to work shortly. I appreciate all of your best wishes and concerns. I hope the Thanksgiving holiday season is going well for everyone. Here is the long-awaited update regarding my cousin and aunt. My aunt and cousin have been quiet since my last update. My aunt contacted me in August using a different phone after my cousin failed to reply to my SMS. She inquired about my health and whether I had given birth yet. She expressed concern for my babies and my well-being during our brief conversation. Because I had cut off a lot of contact with my family and quit my work, my aunt told me that they had been attempting to adopt a child through their church ties, but had not yet been successful, most likely because they had only recently begun the process. When I inquired about my cousin, my aunt said that my cousin's husband's past would be an issue. When I questioned if they had spoken with a legitimate adoption agency, my aunt went on to talk about how the white birth rate is declining and how people are purposefully avoiding motherhood, something I was unaware of. Then she became upset, bringing up irrelevant subjects like 9th-month abortions and asked if I still wanted the baby. She is a staunch pro-her. I told her again that I really wanted to keep my child. She went on to discuss how my cousin, who was in her early 30s, was growing older and how her nest was still empty. My aunt wanted me to at least share the joy by letting my cousin spend time with and be a part of my daughter's life. I informed her that because of their previous actions, this would not be feasible. I was afraid my cousin would attempt to play the part of a mother and let her illusions to take over once more. I refused to accept my aunt's insistence that my cousin was attempting to better herself and had received church therapy. She went on to ask if I knew of any resources or people who might be interested in adopting a child. I informed her that I didn't and suggested that my cousin and her spouse exercise caution and patience while they prepare to become parents. Given that everyone around them is hitting motherhood milestones, my aunt stressed how crucial it was for my cousin and her husband to have children, not just because they deserve them, but also for their reputation. She pushed me on when I might have my next child and changed the topic to my future family plans after this surprise pregnancy. My aunt informed me that family planning was crucial and asked if she and my cousin might be involved the next time. I became weary of the talk as the call continued and her typical behavior became more noticeable. Thank goodness she ended the call before me because she had an event to attend. I like that my sister is there to inform me of any updates pertaining to my former church as well as what's going on with my aunt, cousin, and other family issues. My sister said my aunt was telling the truth about my cousin. Although my cousin still has severe depressed episodes, her general mental health appears to have considerably improved from her worst moments. Her lack of children and her tense relationships with my sister and myself might make her feel extremely empty at times. Since many of their local alternatives have closed, my cousin and her husband are also looking into the possibilities of finding an IVF doctor overseas in the hopes of a miracle. My cousin seems to still think of my kid as something she lost, but she has been pleading for forgiveness of her sins and hopes that God will soon provide her children. For obvious reasons, my side of the family and I have opted to miss Thanksgiving in a few days. I intend to go back to work shortly, most likely following the holidays. I've already made daycare plans and taken all the required safety measures. All things considered, the future appears bright once more. I appreciate your support, everyone. If you have any questions concerning parenting, Mormonism, my family, etc., please contact me. An intriguing aside would be that my aunt has expressed her readiness for the grandma life and has taken a strong interest in my cousin's family starting endeavors. When we were younger, my aunt also said that because my sister and I lost our mother when we were very little, she would be like a grandmother to our future children. She must not be as excited about us as she once was. We have reached the end. If you enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos like this, and give us your thoughts about the stories in the comments section. Thank you and see you in the next video.